We're out here. We go. My apologies, my friends. I was just making sure that we got everything in order before I let our guest in for today. Good morning. Oh, how are we feeling today?
Hey, how you doing? I'm trying to get this working. All right, there you go. Can you hear me?
I can. I see that you got a nice little haircut.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, I had to get a nice and neat shape up, so you know. But how are you? You doing good?
I am doing wonderful because I am here on this Memorial Day. My friend, we are live today introducing a powerful activist, an educator, a mentor, and a nonprofit executive, someone who I'm very, very happy to be a peer of, who I met at Wash U, his old stomping ground. My friends, I want you to meet formerly Christian Griffin, Malak Al-Mawt of St. Louis.
Thank you for having me on the show. Like you said, man, it was great meeting you at the Wash U event. I look forward to having a great conversation.
Of course, my friend. Please tell the chat a little bit about you. I already see them going out in the comments.
Of course, my formal name is Christian Griffin, but my new name is Malik Al-Mott. Currently going through the process of trying to get my original name changed. But long story short, I am the CEO of Juvenile Minds Entertainment. What my company does is we teach youth how to use storytelling to deal with their trauma. So, for example, I first wrote my first book in high school. I learned from my basketball coach. I had severe anger issues, you know, and so he taught me how to use storytelling to deal with my trauma and my issues. So I teach other youth how to do the same thing.
Hmm. Now, what drew you to not wait? You just answered that question. Never mind. My question is, how do you balance these roles of CEO and, of course, an active educator and a mentor? I know that time management and overworking has been a huge part of sorting out your history. So please let me know how you manage to take all these cups and keep them full without spilling over.
So it's definitely difficult because you want to do a lot, but sometimes you have to listen to your body and listen to yourself. So if you feel tired, get some rest. If you feel that you need a break, take a break. That's okay. But I feel that me, especially me, I overpush myself. I just got off my heart monitor 2 days ago. So if you didn't know, guys, I know he'll probably bring it up later in the show or in the middle of the show. So I don't want to give away too much. But yeah, it's just balancing out, you know, what you do. You know, don't overwork yourself. It's okay to take breaks for yourself, and it's okay to slow down. Me personally, I'm just super ambitious, so I just keep going, 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 going. But you have to take a break and take time for yourself.
I understand. You just mentioned it, so I'll go ahead and tell him what's up with your heart monitor. My friends, when it comes to overworking yourself, this man is a paragon. He pushed himself so hard that even though he's my age, he had a heart attack. And now he's actively moving towards a positive recovery. We're glad to see him up and running, and we're hoping that we can at least give a little bit of grace for him so he doesn't have to push himself that hard again.
Yeah.
Now, actually, that brings me to my next question. What strategies do you use to inspire your team and your volunteers?
So whenever I get a person that's willing to volunteer with me, I just started my organization last year, my senior year of college. So it's still growing and I'm still getting it out there to people. But when I do have a person that's willing to come and help me out, I make sure that I be the best version of myself that I can be to them. I make sure that I cater to them, to find out what exactly they are looking for and how they want to help. When I was growing up in St. Louis, I often found it hard to find those mentors that would just stay with you and be on you. We live in a city where we have a lot of powerful people in positions or people in great positions that don't want to help you. They just don't want to help you. And I see him, shake his head up and down like it's the truth. I don't understand why at the age of 23 years old we feel like the elders. You know, it's baffling, it's crazy to me. So with me, if I bring a person in, I want to make sure that I be the best mentor that I can be to them, not just for that moment, but for the long run, for the rest of their lives. So I hope that those people in our community look at this podcast and hear what we are saying, because y'all got to step up. You got to step up and you got to start giving opportunities to the youth and people my age. You can't walk around in your frat colors, your sorority colors, and these powerful positions acting high and mighty when you ain't doing jack stuff. I ain't gonna curse, but doing jack stuff. It doesn't work like that. It makes me mad.
Mm. I feel you, man. I know a lot of powerful people myself that I believe could do a lot more to help youngins like us get off the ground. Unfortunately, especially in the world of politics, which I'm more involved in, they're so concerned with keeping their own positions, the ones that they've held for 20 years, and already have all the money and the resources that they could possibly gain from it, and don't need the position anymore. So rather than train somebody new to take it, they're just gonna stay there until they die. That's in a position they don't need. But that's I digress. That's a more personal thing that I'm hopefully going to force my way into in the future. We've already discussed that.
Oh yeah.
But but my plans are not the subject here. We're talking about you guys. Now, please tell us about some of your best achievements concerning this nonprofit. Tell us about one or two people that really made leaps and bounds towards greatness under your tutelage.
First, my first great student. Well, all my students are great, but this one particularly stood out to me. Her name is Anaya Barte. Additionally, I try to get her on the podcast, but as you know, youth are busy and have their own things to be dealing with. But I watched her from the beginning of her eighth grade year go from fighting every day, cursing out teachers every day, and then voted as among the top horrible students in the school. From now, writing her first book at the age of 14 years old, not fighting, not cursing out teachers, being a productive daughter at home to her mom. You can't tell me that you can't save a so-called bad apple or a bad kid, because it's not true. I watched her grow from that point on, and now she's writing a book at the age of 14. I don't know about you, but at the age of 14, I wasn't thinking about writing no book. I tell you that. Then I have another young man who played on my basketball team. If you didn't know, I coach middle school basketball this year,
Hmm.
and this young man is going to Cardinal Ritter. Yep, he's going to Cardinal Ritter, my former school, and he's going to continue his sports career. And most of all, I'm going to continue to mentor him and help him understand, it's not just about basketball, sports, but there's something even greater for you. Maybe it's a book you could write in high school, or, maybe it's something that you want to do that I can help you get to that point. So I'm just proud of them. And those are just two that I can think of off the top of my mind. But I have another one who's interested in acting that I'm helping out. So we're working. We have another one who just reached out to me saying, "Hey, I found this program. My sister needs help with it. Could needs help paying for it. Could you possibly help her out?" I'm I don't mind helping out in that way. But yeah, we're working.
Seems like we need to make a group chat.
Yeah.
I was literally just in a church yesterday preaching about how we need help crowdfunding another program of mine. Of course, that of course that student in particular is now has doing her own thing, so we we never know what these youngins are gonna do, man.
Yeah, the only thing you can do is just try to get them in that position. Whether it's paying a little something, for him to be in this program. Like my basketball coach and mom did. Of course, my mom did for me, but my basketball coach, he helped out as much as he can. Not just with the books, but if I needed a little something, he'll be like, "Hey, here you go." I remember this one story during basketball season. One of my players needed a haircut, and he didn't have the money for it. So, I gave him the money to get his haircut. People don't understand that the little things like that mean a lot to these kids. Just to be able to get your haircut, look nice, feel great. It's a different feeling as a man to get your haircut. So it's just moments like that that really makes me happy. It doesn't have to be the big moments of, like awards and all that stuff. I don't really care about awards. What I care about is the betterment of these youth in our community. Don't get me wrong, there's youth all over the world that need help, but I'm from St. Louis. The youth that need me are the ones that look like me.
Mm. Now that reminds me of a conversation that an old social worker had. They stated that when it comes to law and picking numbers for prison cells, they usually look at the third graders in that district, and whoever is reading under the required level, those are the people they expect to go into a cell. That school to prison pipeline's been affecting our young people, especially in urban areas and underprivileged areas, for the entirety of American existence. And now you've got out here that's the obstacle between those two areas. And it's a very beautiful thing. But I've got to ask, do you ever feel like you're overstepping?
Definitely, definitely. I'll give you a situation I just had at the school, um, with one of the kids, one of the young ladies that I help out. So her mom gave me a call and she was like, "Hey, these two girls are trying to jump my child. It was the last week. Could she please, please, please stay with you and the other gym teacher? If you don't know, at the school that I work with, I have another female teacher who I work with. We have the same office space. So she asked for her young daughter to, stay there where we was at because she was afraid of her getting jumped. Now I don't have kids myself, but if I felt that my child was about to get jumped, I would call the teacher ASAP and be like, "Hey, can my child stay with you?" Me having the big heart that I have, I said, "Yeah, she can stay down there. She'll be with my female teacher majority of the time because I'm busy around the school, doing lunch duty besides my classes. So it's just how it be." Long story short, so the school basically was like calling because she would come straight to the gym in the morning, not going to her first period and stuff like that. So they would think she was absent. Her mom would let them know where she was at. So out of nowhere, I had a call from another staff member saying like, "Hey, they are spreading rumors about something possibly going on between you and this young lady." I was like, "What the fuck?" Excuse my language. I was like, "Huh? Excuse me?" First off, I don't play games like that. If you know me, I do not play games like that. and I would never ever hurt a child ever. So it really peed me off, and they wouldn't say who was spreading those rumors because I was definitely gonna sue for defamation of character. But long story short, you know, depending on the type of leader that you is, those situations make or break you. I knew it wasn't true, so I didn't let it break me, but it helped me sit back and really, really, really think things through a lot better, because not once was I ever alone with this young lady. The female coach was with her every time that we were in that room having a conversation, and it wasn't a child that said it, it was staff members that looked like me spreading the bull crap, looked like
Right.
me, black, so the one thing I always say is, we are our own worst enemy. And you have to know when to step back in situations, you know. That little moment like that, you know, you have to analyze that situation. I did it the right way by having the female coach in her every time I was with her and keeping the female coach with her every time that I step out, so that I had a witness in that situations to everything. And his camera's right by the gym, so that's the best thing with my situation. But not every person has that luxury. They may not have a person in a room with them. They may not have cameras everywhere. So you just have to be careful with every situation. If let's say that female coach wasn't with me all the time and that the cameras wasn't there, I would have possibly said no to the mom. I would have said no to the mom. I would have, because you never know with these parents. You have to be careful. You never know with these parents and what they can try to do to you. You can have a big heart and want to help people, but at the end of the day, you got to think smartly about yourself too. As a man, you don't want to put yourself situations in there. Now with a boy that I'm mentoring, even that, I still will make sure that I have somebody around me. Just because I'm a man, he's a boy doesn't mean that he couldn't say something happen. When
Yeah.
you are in this field, make sure you have a person right beside you at all times to see what's going on. If you don't have one, um, I don't know, have your phone record. I don't know, do something. But just be cautious of what you do in this field. And, as far as the money thing too, people can view that as overstepping. So make sure you highlight what it is for. If they ask me for what that is for a program, okay, give me details about this program that I'm about to fund. And then let me talk to your parents about it too, just to make sure that you are not just saying that you need money for a program and you do the opposite. That's how I do it. So free advice for anybody out there.
No, no, I need that advice because I myself am a very involved person. Like when I leave myself open a lot, and I always have my entire life. And that's recent. That actually caused me trouble one time too, with the person who I was just talking about. I was literally in church. I've been in multiple places. I've been in several places bragging about this kid, trying to get her crowdfunding so she can go to these programs and such. And I come to find out that she thought that I was in love with her. That yeah,
Yeah.
same day that spilled out of nowhere, and naturally connection is gone. Just gone. There is nothing. I have to give people their money back now because no, no. I thought that I was being a paternal figure because I have a paternal heart. I am a you know that I'm an only child.
Yeah.
The only experience that I really have with those big family units is on sitcoms. So I'm like my regular sitcom dad self. And meanwhile, the child thinks that I'm a pedophile. And yet, and she never told me this. It just came out. And it's like, how long have you thought that? Why didn't you say anything communicating with me right now?
Can I ask you a question? Was any like text messages? Did you like, text her, get stuff like that? Like call her?
It was text messages. And it just came where?
That's another thing to be careful with. I try not to interact with, you know, kids outside, like through text and stuff like that. I'd rather talk to their parents.
Mm-hmm.
with anything. So that's another thing. Just be careful with that because, they can lie and do all that stuff. Like, there's only a few that found my social media when I had my incident. And sadly, if you type my name on Google, you'll find my social media. But, you know, they found my social media through Google when I had my incident. And, right off the bat, I said to them, how did you find my social media? It's not my name. And, they basically said how they found it. And then I was like, look, only use this for advice. Don't ask me any questions about anything else. Don't ask me any questions about nothing else. Only for advice. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. If you are trying to contact me outside of, my business or school, you know, just ask me for advice. That's it. If you don't have any advice to ask, don't send me a message. I'm not going to respond. So I always try to clarify that with them. And, you know, it hurts me that, that we as the big hearted people, the ones that want to help these kids for real, get put in positions like this. But like my mom and grandma said, when you are in these positions and you are doing the right thing, the devil will always try to bring you right back down. I'm not sure if you're religious or anything, but I honestly believe that,
Mm-hmm.
when you are on that verge of coming to a level that only so far can reach, the devil will try everything to pull you down. It's God testing your faith in that moment. So in that moment, I didn't crash down. I didn't, get down on myself. I was like, hey, they can say what the hell they want to say about me. I know the truth and God knows the truth. That's all that matters. I know I didn't do nothing wrong, and I have evidence and proof of it, like I just mentioned. So why would I be stressed out? Why would I be angry? You know what I'm saying? I know my mission on this earth, and no matter how many people try to destroy, God has a plan for it at the end of the day. So, in those situations, man, don't just cut her off. You learn
Oh
from
yeah.
that situation, and now you know how to move forward with the young ladies that you help out. I usually focus on helping my young man because I can relate to them better than a young lady. You know, the one I just mentioned, Aya Barte, the young lady, I'm teaching her how to write a book. That's it. Anything else like you know I don't do. It's all advice through text message. That's it. There is no
Mm-hmm.
meeting up. There is no none of that. We ain't doing none of that. The advice that I'm going to give you is through this text message about how to write a book, how to express your thoughts through that book, and how to share it with every other you. That's it. So that's the advice that I have.
See, I had an entire lesson about boundaries with her too, and that was because I realized in the middle of this mentorship that I forgot to establish them. But I had another mentee last semester. The first time that we spoke, I established boundaries. I forgot to do it with this one. And it really makes you think, because some of these children, they don't come any from the best situations. And you're genuinely nice to them. You genuinely want to help people. This happened to me with grown women too, of course. Like I come to them, they have a problem. I'm like, okay, let's fix it. Then I work with them to fix it, and the same thing happens. They think, you must be in love with me. No, I was just there to help. And I have to cut them off every single time because it's just I don't know. I I don't know how you have to where you have to come from or where you have to be mentally to think that somebody coming at you with good intentions must mean romantic love, but I want to help them out of that situation. I want to help everybody, but I know you can't help everybody. I've lost a lot of connections, and by a lot I mean three, through that specific thing. This is just the first time that it happened to be a child, and that's I don't know. Actually, I'm getting way off subject. You are the subject here.
I don't know. You fine. I like conversations like this. Seriously, you know. And
I don't
it's
know.
it's true, like you said. That's why I focus more so to the young man because as a man, I know I can teach them how to effectively be a stern man in society. Whereas they don't have the fathers in their house, so I didn't have my father. Thankfully I had a mom that was both my mom and dad, but a lot of them don't have their fathers and their mom. It's just not there mentally. So as a older man, not that much older than him, but I try to teach them, how to carry yourself as a man, how to think smartly like a man, how to treat a woman, you know, and how to deal with the trauma and express your feelings as a man. Because one thing in our community is, they try to make it hard for men to express themselves. We often be labeled as weak, often be labeled as, not strong because we express our feelings, And I just want them to understand that it's okay to express your feelings. It's okay to write a book about what you've been through, So in my books, I also address the young women as well. I may not say anything to them in person. I only have two or three that I'm helping and, helping outside of like a book. Like the ones that and all of them are writing a book of their own. That's the only reason I'm helping them. Other than that, I mean, it wouldn't be no conversation. Like I said, my focus is on my young man, young black man. So that's my focus.
Mhm. My focus right now is just going to be me.
Yeah.
That's the reason why she was frustrated because I had a lot of business to do and I was not able to contact her. The fact that she even felt obligated to, you know, repeated messages, that in itself means that I was too close. Like, you got to be really careful not to get too close to people. And that is a character flaw that I will make sure to always be wary of. Usually I don't have that problem because I usually stay disconnected from people anyway, but I just let myself get careless.
Hey, that's okay. We only 23, man. We live and learn. We don't have all the answers. I always say that to the kids I help. I don't have all the answers. But the knowledge that I do have is all I can give you. And that's why, early in the call I called on the elders in our community, man. I gotta come back and be the elders, man. I'm still learning myself. I should not be an elder at 23 or consider an elder at 23. It's time for y'all to get out of your powerful trips, get out of your playing games. All these so-called civil rights leaders and pastors in the community, you need to come on out and stop trying to be Dr. King and Malcolm X, and let's get to work.
I think we saw a pretty good example of that at the Wash U event too, because you were on the main panel. I was supposed to be in the third, and so that's why they put me and the minister in the seats because they weren't going to do a third. Those tornadoes came out of nowhere and really messed up the order. But I did not get my final thoughts. I was going to inquire about everybody there being more connected, and because I didn't get my final thought, because the dang MC decided he wanted to preach and skip us, I missed out on a whole bunch of connections to the people that left immediately afterwards, and I actually felt bad about that because I wanted to know more about those people. Like I feel you, man. These older adults, they they want to be in the limelight, even though they know that they're not nearly as productive as they used to be. And they could pass that light on to a younger person and take credit for our accomplishments, since we still have the energy, since we still have that drive, but all over the country, you just see older people taking it. I was having conversation with a politician in my area just about that. See, he's a millennial. He said to me that millennials were supposed to be the generation that did all the stuff that Gen Z is already getting prepared to do. And I told him, look at the average ages of our legislators. In the House, you've got 57. In the Senate, you've got 63. You guys never got an opportunity because the older people took all of them. See, we just have to force our way in. That's
With
all we
no
have to
help,
do. Mm,
with no help like they have, like you said, one of my mentors told me that when you get 35, be looking to pass the torch. Be looking at the person you want to pass it to. And a lot of people wait today on their deathbeds to, pass the torch. Like, man, it ain't no point to pass the torch now. You fit to be gone. It comes a point in time where you just need to sit down and be like, hey, I've tried everything in my lifetime. Now it's time for a young person to step onto the limelight. Maybe they can do it. If it comes to a point in time for me where I make it to, let's say, 65, or not even 65, 35, right? I make it to 35, I'm going to continue to fight, but I'm going to also get the next leader, the next young person after me in a position so they can start doing the work. I'll be there to help them, but it's their time. You know, when I'm getting that 40, man, I'm looking to be on, you know, a beach, relaxing, and still helping, but I'm looking to calm down and be a family man. It comes a point in time where you have to be like, it's time to hang it up. 70 something years old as a president is crazy. you know, like man, I can't remember the last president that was in their 40s. You know, Obama was probably the last youngest president. You know,
No, that was Taft. Taft was the youngest, but I believe Wilson was thrown into the position after, hold on,
correct.
as
John
John
F.
F. Kennedy
Yeah,
was
he
the
was the
youngest person
second.
elected.
Yeah, where Taft was the youngest president, but I'm saying like Obama was like the last like president where you could look at and be like he looks young. That's what I meant to say. That he looks young. Whereas like presidents before that, I mean, well, Bush looked young when he got in office, but I mean, yeah, that's debatable. But Obama looked young, like that's the president. Whereas now it's like, damn, you gotta be 60 and older. you know, like you gotta be 30 years old to be mayor in St. Louis. Like, man,
What?
just maybe, yeah, yeah. You gotta be 30 and then to run for the Senate of Missouri, you have to be 30.
Oh,
It's
no.
yeah, it's just like it comes a point in time where you need to give the young people opportunity. Maybe like, man, I wish that we can do it, but it's gonna take a lot of work to get that age down to hell, maybe 25, maybe 21, because there's a mayor, I believe it was Baltimore, who's in his 20s as mayor.
Yeah, I
You
know for in Arkansas, they got an 18-year-old. 18 is usually the age usually the minimum age for local positions in general. And then, over in Illinois, for state positions, that's when you get to 21. County and city, that's 18. Then federal, across the board is 25. So you guys are telling me that in order to be in the House of Representatives in any state at the federal level, you got to be 25, but St. Louis mayor has to be 30?
30, man. It's crazy to me. This city needs something different. It needs something different. I served on the civilian oversight board at the age of 23. I mean, civilian oversight board deals with police cases against civilians. That, don't get me wrong, that's amazing. It's a start. But dude, I can't work till I'm damn near 30 years old to, run for mayor. 25, I mean, you can run for the house, you know.
Of representatives at a
Yeah.
federal or state level.
But here I am about, you'll have to battle him. Well, my person is Wesley Bell,
Yeah.
so I have to battle him who has all this money coming from BIPAC, all that money coming from them. I'm a young person basically just getting started out in this field who people are seeing. So now it's like it's when you can win it, you know, but I have 2 more years before that. And
Hmm.
by that time he'll be up for re-election, but I mean I'll still be in my position as civilian oversight board. So that's why I look at guys like you, you know, to challenge him, and you have my support.
Oh, yeah, but I'm on the Illinois side. I'm just trying to replace Mike Bost. And I still have 2 years before I can do that too. But I can find somebody now to do that. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to run for state rep because Hoffman is all, as I said, is already on the chopping block. So that means I can just tiptoe my way into a state position. That'll give me a little bit more popularity before I go to the federal. But I need to replace Mike Boss. He is a liability to Illinois, useless person to have as a federal representative of an admittedly great state. It's very it's above average, but there's a lot of fixing to do. And right now our legislation actually seems to be moving towards something good, which is beautiful. But we're still in the starting stages of it, so it's going to take a lot of time to see the actual fruits of our labor.
It's crazy that you said. I thought that you was on the Missouri side. I didn't know. I didn't know you was on the Illinois side. Just maybe. Just maybe. You never know. I might give it a challenge when I turn 25. Start campaigning now. If we want a shot, I mean, it's 2 years from now. But if we want a shot, you start campaigning 2 years in advance. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, of course, but
I don't
I had
think
to let.
anybody's a fan of Donald Trump.
Oh, you'd be surprised. You'll be surprised at people. But one thing I can't say is this dude was campaigning when the damn presidential race was over. I mean, he was still campaigning in 2020 all the way to 2024. It's like, Jesus, what are you campaigning about? Oh, this clown was campaigning this whole time just to win, just to win.
He's been campaigning forever.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even no, dude, 2021, it wasn't even no thought of a president election. This dude was still running a presidential campaign, and it's like, okay, if you want a shot to be the big dog, you have to start very early. You have to get your message to the people heads very early. You have to be at these events very early. You have to be in the community very early. You know,
Or you can just have money.
that too.
Because,
Like,
Donald Trump, he has he has actually navigated his political career, or more so, I must say, the Heritage Foundation has been navigating his political career because they are the think tank that funded Reagan, the great negotiator, who also had the same slogan. And ever since he got into office, our entire nation has fallen further and further and further. Donald Trump is literally just Reagan, but he's the culmination of everything Reagan wanted to start. That is the thing. See, people like them, both of them together, because they're running off the exact same playbook by the exact same people. If they are not in office, they will oppose each other to get clout. But Donald Trump, he was much more forceful because he was already a billionaire. By replacing pollsters, by replacing judges, by replacing candidates in political areas with loyalists who can spread that message, by bringing his rhetoric to the local level and getting 13, or was it 11 people to get over 70 books banned in Florida alone, by spreading that anti-education rhetoric, that anti-media rhetoric that Reagan already started in a modern day where people's distrust of the media and of government institutions is already at an all-time high, starting with Reagan's repealing of the Fairness in Media Act all the way back in 1987. My friend, you're a political science major too, right? You know this whole dance that we've been going through for the last 45 years. And it all
yeah,
came together in Donald Trump. It's these guys, the people who are behind this, they are not dumb people. They are just malevolent people. Because their message has worked very well, even if it is deceptive, even if it is extremely convoluted, even though it had a very low chance of success. They played they played it in a way where it could succeed overwhelmingly. And though there were a, many investigations into missing votes, and one state was confirmed to have had terrible polling, what's the word? Polling manipulation. Like I believe it was Wisconsin that was sued because it was confirmed that there was actual fraud that favored Republicans. And then they just didn't do any more investigations. There was no point in even doing that in the first place, in my opinion, because yes, Okay, what if Harris had won that state? Then what exactly is the point of figuring it out now? The election was months ago. You can't change it. Like, yeah, they may have just completely they may have completely turned things in their favor using their money, but what are you gonna do about it? It's way too late to fix the problem now. But
Boom.
that
Everything you just said, that brings me to, my next point I wanted to make. Us. How do you break down a wall, right? How did they do it, right? Strength in numbers. Have you ever heard that saying, strength in numbers? It's so many of them that came out, well, continues to come out through every election, whether it's the president election or even a small election, they continue to come out. Whereas we focus on the huge elections, right? The issue in Missouri is just it's a conservative state. The rural parts make up most of Missouri. That's why it's red all the time. The big parts like St. Louis, Kansas City are blue. Okay. So Gen Z, right? Us. You just said it. You're gonna push somebody to run against, I forgot the guy's name because I'm not too knowledgeable about Illinois, but you're gonna push somebody to run against that person while you run for a position. Over here, because of you motivating me and speaking about what you're gonna do, I'm gonna give it a shot. One of these positions when I turn 25, maybe. I don't know about the Wesley Bell spot because he hasn't did anything wrong that I've seen yet. But and people, he's not too vocal, like Corey Bush was. That can be, and then the BIPAC. I mean, that's just a whole nother issue and all that money and all they background and stuff. But maybe it's that position, or maybe it's just something even more local outside the civilian oversight board. But I honestly would like that position so I can really make a change on the congressional level for just the St. Louis area. You know, that's what I can try to impact a lot more than the national level. Because national level, you need strength in numbers. You need strength in
Mhm.
numbers for that point blank period. That's what a lot of people don't understand. How many black senators do we have on a national level? Can
Hmm,
you tell me?
that is a good question. I believe we have six, but I'm not gonna say.
So so
I'm
if
not-
so I want to give you an example that a political mentor once gave me. He said, how many African Americans are in the United States?
all of them.
Yeah, this is a lot, right? How many senators are there in the Senate on national level? How many?
100.
Okay. You just said six African Americans, right? Black
Oh,
senators.
well, never mind. I was wrong. There are five. Dang it.
Five, right? And how many African Americans are in the United States? So how many black senators should we have right now?
13.
Yeah, we should. Why don't we though?
Because money.
That
That's
too.
yeah, that's a thing that people that's a reason that a lot of local politicians do not want to run for federal level because they fear they don't have the funds. Ever since the Supreme Court voted to allow unlimited donations in elections, or at least by super PACs,
It's definitely money, but I want Gary Chambers. Have you ever heard that name? In he's from New Orleans to Mississippi, one of them. But let's take Mississippi for example. It's so many of us there in Mississippi, right?
mhm.
How many black senators are in Mississippi
Well,
on a
like
national level?
senators in Mississippi, the
Yeah,
answer
on
is
a
none
none.
because there are
Why?
only senators.
You want to know why? The reason why is we make up most of Mississippi. Those rural parts I just said in Missouri that's predominantly white, and it makes up the conservative base in this state more so than us. Just the two cities, St. Louis and Kansas City, which is blue, right? They come together more and they vote to get those conservative people in those places, right?
Hmm.
That's why we haven't had one. That's why we haven't had a long time. a Democratic governor. The last one was Jay Nixon. We just had Governor Parsons who just retired. Oh my goodness, I don't want to start on him. But then we have two conservative senators. One of them being Josh Hawley, who I can't stand. And when Mississippi, we could have two black senators and black representatives, but we in that region just don't get out and vote. Now, why don't we vote? Why don't we?
There are
Because
many factors.
yeah, there's many factors. Well, one, we believe that we won't get nothing from exchange from our vote.
Mm-hmm.
For one, we believe that even if we do get two more black senators and there are still not 13, you know, but we have to understand that, along with voting and all that great stuff, that if we don't try or take the risk, you never know. We have to get past that point of, oh, my vote just it doesn't matter. It just I don't know what we can do. Man, look, let's focus on getting at least 20 to 30 black senators in the Senate. That's all. Let's maybe 20. I'll make it little. Let's focus on getting 14, not even 20. 14 in the Senate. In the House, let's get at least 20, 20. No, well, probably already have that. Maybe even more, maybe 50. Let's say 50, right?
Mm-hmm.
Black representatives in there. Actual representatives that's gonna actually do something, by the way. Now we don't just want to just vote people in. It's not that's gonna get bought and paid for, as you know. If you've
We
been
could always
behind
get
those
another Clarence
walls,
Thomas.
yeah, behind them walls, man, money talks. I've seen it. I did the internships. I've seen it. Money talks, you know, and I've seen the ones who has been the big bad activists become a sellout. I've seen it firsthand, my own eyes in Jail City, in Washington D.C. For those who don't know what Jail City is, it's the capital of Missouri. But in Jail City, I've seen people sell out. So I'm saying all this to say that one half of the issue is not having representation, proper representation in politics. But then the other half is we as a people, we have to start building our own communities. We can't just wait on the government no more. We cannot wait on the government no more. We have a lot of black construction workers, black owned construction workers, doctors, lawyers, people with money that don't use that money to help rebuild the north and west sides of St. Louis.
Mm-mm.
We have to it comes a point in time where we have to just do the work ourselves. I'm tired of waiting on people. Let's come together, let's use the resources that we do have, and let's build another Black Wall Street or another Mount Bayou historic black area. For those that don't know, those were historic black towns and areas. And
Another
start
million Black Wall Streets. You know, the last example of Black Wall Street being burned in 1981. That was the most recent one.
I'll give you another one, Mount Bayou. Have you heard of that? Mount Bayou in Mississippi. It was a historic black town, famously known for the mother of Emmett Till when she was down there. Um, you know, what's what I'm looking for? She was one of the not a witness. She was one of the people in the case that was going to talk on the stand. Long story short, she was down there to be a part of the trial. She stayed in the historic town of Mount Bayou. Medgar Evers also used to live in Mount Bayou. It's a beautiful area in Mississippi. Mississippi, the most racist state. It's an argument between Alabama and Mississippi as far as the most racist state, but I believe Mississippi was the most racist state. Uh, they have a historic black town, prosperous black town, and guess what? They had men that were police, black men who policed the town. See, that
Mm.
comes to another issue: policing our own community. What does that look like? I'm currently writing a book called Black Man Healing Guide, and it's going to be a small little book for my black brothers and my black sisters who want the book too. But in that book, I say that we have to start community policing. As black men, we have to start doing that because, you know, in our community, we never know what's going to happen if we call the police for a crime. We don't know. So what do we do now? We police our man who's walking around with these military assault weapons. We as black men, as a group, not just going up to them as one person, as a group, talk to them, start the healing process for them, get the guns out of their hands, and show them like, hey, there's a different way of using this, not on each other. Use it for actual protection. One of the ladies at the event said that you know they carry those guns because they don't feel protected. Well, we need to start making them feel protected. As
Mm-hmm.
black men, we are the black man. These 12 and 13-year-olds don't need to be out here like that. So we first need to get that corrected, and then once we get our communities more safer, rebuilt, get all those abandoned houses rebuilt, because you are a prodigy of what your community looks like. So if I'm around abandoned buildings, I will become a savage. I'll become an animal, right? Because I'm in an environment that looks like a war zone, you know, where I feel that I have to be at war with anybody, you know. So boom, turn those communities around, get them guns in the right hands for protection, and then teach those young men how to continue on the community policing when they get older, because we can't live forever, you know. So continue the cycle like that. That's how you break that cycle. But again, we have to have a group of black men to do it with, though. We don't have that.
Mm-hmm. We need a cohesive group of active leaders, and that's the thing that a lot of people do not really consider. The fact that we can offset not having most of the wealth, 70% of the wealth only lies with 5% of people. Income inequality has been going ever since the beginning, and it's going to go up even more as soon as this new budget is passed, because that's literally the only thing Republicans are known for. But we, as young people, by being more cohesive, by being more together in our efforts, and being more collaborative, my friend, I'm telling you, if we just had a group chat of Gen Z candidates who are running for state or federal offices all across the United States, that alone, sharing resources, being able to network with one another, if we just gathered those Gen Z that are really prominent in these things and focused specifically on our own generation, obviously we have to branch out, we have to work with everybody else, but if we were just more focused as an age group, if we just used what we have in common as an advantage, we would be in prime position to just skip millennials entirely. Because the millennials, they, as we said before, they were not pulling their weight. And Gen Z is already at a divide where our men are way more conservative and our women are much more liberal. And now our men and women are butting heads when we already weren't going anywhere anyway. Remember when we were called the sexless generation? That was fun. Hasn't changed. Like, internet will make the older people think that we're the most promiscuous, but we don't even do anything with each other anymore. And that sucks. It really does.
That's why I'm hoping with this meeting tomorrow with one of the ladies that was at the event from Harris Stowe. You know, I'm hoping that this fall we can have a Black Man Summit where we bring in, you know, us Gen Z leaders and have a conversation with these black men who's older than us, you know, because we need to get this together, man. And having a summit, a healing summit, or a summit where we can have these conversations like this in a closed area will be great, because some of these leaders here that's older than us, black men, need to hear this, man. I don't think they're hearing it. You know, besides the Wash U event, you know, I'm not invited to a lot of events to speak, as you can see why. You know, I'm not going to bite my tongue like I didn't at the event. You know, I'm going to say what's needed to be said with the hopes of it being resolved. You know, and that needs to stop. It doesn't matter how you speak. It doesn't matter what your rhetoric is. What matters is working together to come to a common goal. You know, it would have been nice to have Malcolm X and Dr. King actually working together. But because one of them spoke more differently, that didn't go along with the lines of the civil rights movement or the lines of what the government wanted, he was outcasted from it. You know, Malcolm X, he was outcasted from it. If we're being honest, you know, let's be honest here. Dr. King wasn't fit to be seen with Malcolm X, who was talking self defense. His thing was nonviolence. His thing was, you know, turn the other cheek. Where Malcolm was like, no, hit them back, and it's been documented by people around them that said Dr. King didn't want to be around Malcolm. That's why he avoided at all costs, and they didn't meet till 1964. And that was the only time they met. Malcolm died a year later. When Malcolm went to Selma, Alabama to give his speech down there in Selma, Dr. King was locked up, and he tried to go visit Dr. King in prison, well, in jail. When he was in jail, King didn't want to meet with him. Even after that meeting, he met with Coretta Scott King, though, at the event, and they had a great conversation. You watched the movie Selma, you know, it's in Selma, and it's written documentation. You know, that's what the issue is today. The ones that align with Morton's philosophy don't want to speak to the ones that align with Malcolm's philosophy. But I say, forget all that. We are black men. Our
Mm.
community needs us. I don't care what philosophy you practice. I don't care what religion you practice. I don't care if you're a Muslim. I don't care if you're a Catholic. I don't care if you're a Christian. I don't care what you are. We are black men. And we have to come in a point in time and put our differences aside and work together because our community needs us. Black women are dominating. They are
Oh, they have
dominating.
been. They have been. Ever since ever even before the war on drugs, they were just in the background. They still had to carry the workload, and after that point where they were able to successfully destabilize the families in the urban areas, take those black men out of homes, they had to do it. And by the time that 2016 rolled around, they they were done with it. I'm I was still a child. We were both still children at that time, but I was actually documenting and keeping track of it really closely, the rift, because for most of our lives, black women were squarely loyal to the black community because they were the ones who had to hold it up. By the time that Donald Trump was gaining popularity, those guys said, "Screw it. We're done. Either these guys got to step up, or we're out of here." And now we're in a place where we barely even have them on the front lines anymore. We have to step into the place of leadership, or else our community is just going to fall apart.
You said it earlier, the division. Because you have so many black women in those once positions that were made, well, not made, but had black men in them. They feel that they don't need us no more. They feel that they shouldn't need us. They in those positions already. Why should they listen to us? And like you said, a lot of our brothers have gone on the conservative side because of that to oppose them. And I'm just tired of it because when I listen to my grandma and grandpa talk about back then and how everything was so close knit together, but before segregation, all that stuff, you know, I just wish that we can get back to that, as black men, also being up there with our black women fighting alongside each other. Now, I'm not saying we take over those positions and move black women back in like the house and stuff. No, I'm not saying all that. What I'm saying is black men, we have to step up. And that's why I would like to have a black man summit at Harris Stowe University in the fall to have these conversations amongst ourselves. No media, no social media, all that stuff. Just us as black men having an honest conversation with the hopes of leaving that meeting in a better situation than we are now, actually working together, not trying to be on a power trip.
With a plan.
Yeah,
We've got to
with a
add that.
plan.
One thing about our people is that we love to talk. That is all we do at all these events that I go to. And as much as I love speaking, I am a Toastmaster. I'm about to be the president of a Toastmasters chapter. Speaking is my bread and butter, but it is not something that we need to do when the sanctity, when the democracy, when the reputation, when the livelihood of our entire nation is at stake. We've done enough talking. We need to take action. That is why people are so fed up with Democrats in the first place.
Exactly like you said, a plan, a strategic one. Something I don't like rushing anything. I want it to be strategic, like you said, and we have to stick to that plan. That's why I don't want media, all them cameras. Because one thing when cameras are around, people act different. People say all this jive stuff and all this great stuff on front of the camera. Then after the event, they go ghost. No, forget the cameras, forget all that stuff. We need to have a serious meeting come up with a serious plan. I don't care how many days this summit take. You know, 3 days a week. I don't care. We need to come up with a plan of action for Black man in this summit, in closed doors, of course. You know, that's how we do it. You know, there's too many cameras and all this singing and, like you said, singing and marching and doing all this shit for the camera, and I'm sick of it. Forget the cameras for once. They talk about us with social media. I mean, wait a minute now. Wait a minute now. You know, I'm seeing a lot more posts from the elders on Facebook and Instagram more than I post, you know.
Hmm.
And I'm just tired of the cameras being everywhere. It's not about, like I said, it's not about being Dr. King and Malcolm X. It's just about working together and just getting the job done.
Black people, man, we are so good at social justice. That's been our whole thing ever since this thing started. But we have to eventually understand that this system was not built to work for us. And that's for every group. It wasn't meant to work for Native Americans, to work for Hispanic people. It's not meant to work for disabled people or people in the LGBTQ community. If you are marginalized in any way, it's not even made to work for women. That's the reason why they're the biggest marginalized group. That's why they took most of our affirmative action picks. White women being the majority, that's why they were the ones who got the most from DEI and everything that they're now trying to oppose. It's just going to hurt them. It's just going to put them back in the kitchen. We have to build these parts for the system to function, and then to do that, you have to jump into it. I tell activists this a lot because activists like the idea of civil rights. They like the idea of civil social justice, but for some reason, these people who have so much passion just will not step up and get into the positions where they can make legislative change, change that is written, change that has to be followed. Well, not has to be followed because you can't really control people socially, but you can change the narrative into something that's inherently good. Right now, we're in a place where there are millions of posts every single day perpetuating a nonsensical and imaginary plethora of problems that don't exist. It's all just social nonsense. We're moving away from the actual problems, everybody, and as a result, millions of people across the world are getting hurt. We need to go back to a time of common sense, of planning, of progress. And in order to do that, people have to step into the positions where they can get that done. You don't need influencers. We don't need streamers stepping up. We don't need Greta Thunbergs. We need people who are willing to get in and get stuff done. That is what we were made to do. That's what Gen Z has to do because now that everybody else in the world is either complacent or against us, it's gonna be up to our generation to fix everything they screwed up. I'm just gonna straight up say that. Like it sucks because we are the young ones right now. Gen Alpha are the babies, but in order for Gen Alpha to have a good life, we have to be the ones to make it because nobody else is gonna do it for it. That's for Black people and that's for Gen Z.
Yes. Yes. I'm sorry that I over took most of the podcast of my answers, you know.
No, that is fine. That's exactly what you were supposed to do. I'm sorry that we started ranting instead of actually getting to these good questions. But but I actually am interested in hosting a men's summit because I have not done an event in over a year. I've been to many, I've helped with many, I've vented at many, but I have not hosted one myself, and that feels bad, man. So if we're gonna host this men's summit, when do you have this meeting?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
What time?
So I'm gonna send her a message, figure out a time, and once I figure out the time, I'll send it to you. Come through, man. Let's have this conversation.
Man, my whole evening is free tomorrow, and if it's not, then I'll make it free because I will make sure that we get Carrie Lewis and Christopher Belt I'll even try to force my way into Wesley Bell's office to get somebody from him. Because I have not. I spoke to Wesley Bell at a town hall a little bit earlier. The man just got put in his place in January, and he immediately went to the excuse that we don't have power in the government, that we don't have the Senate or the House. And I understand that. But that does not mean that there is not something you can do. You can pull a Trojan horse bill. You can you can keep mass broadcasting this narrative. You can shift your own city into a positive direction and spread it out. There are things to do. I actually have an entire playlist of plans. I just don't have it in front of me. But in that case, yes, I understand being more complacent, but you're an elected official. If you roll over on your back whenever you are in a place where you're not in the position to make legislation, that's what do you think that's going to make you look like? It makes you look like a coward. And he's only been in since January. You just got here and you're already letting it go? Come on, bro. That,
Now, I try to keep my, like you said, not say too much. I'm glad that you said it, but I agree, man. When he first got in, he didn't have a proper uh home based office that you can actually go to and talk to somebody. He didn't have that set up. His home page wasn't set up properly, and it took a while for people to ask when will the town hall be? When will you have a town hall? I mean, he didn't have a in-person town hall. It was virtual. And I never try to turn down anybody, but it's like, dude, come on, man. Come on. You know, the people want to talk to you and ask what exactly are you going to do. He makes posts about certain things, but I mean, he got to do more than that, brother.
mm-hmm.
you know, and I'm saying this because I watched Senator Brown Williams, a well-respected mentor of mine, create a ban and chokehold bill in a conservative Missouri, create a bill and get all police departments across Missouri, even the conservative ones, in one room in support of this bill banning chokeholds, and got the bill passed. That's when I said, you know what? That's how I want to be. It's possible. You have to work with both sides, though. It's possible. And guess what? He's not the loudest in the room. Senator Brown Williams is super chill, quiet, but he's about that action.
Yeah. I think we have to get to a place where we actually have two sides. That's that's my problem with this whole situation. Because now that I know that this was the plot from the start, and I know that there's word of our legislators, of our Republican legislators, not wanting the fall of America, but just voting for it anyway, even though they oppose it. That does not give me hope. At this point, there's as a moderate Republican because they are all voting in favor of destruction of democracy. And that hurts me because if we had an educated populace, if we had a benevolent legislature in the first place, then we would not be trying to make all of America into a welfare state. These are the types of Republicans that should not be in elected office to begin with, the type that get welfare states. And I know, and I'm not trying to like rag on states like Alabama, Tennessee, Missouri, and Mississippi because they do have a lot of black people, but the only reason that they are so low in quality in education, healthcare, and every inherently good aspect is because of their conservative leadership. The same kind of leadership that restricts black people from polling places, that gerrymanders their states so they can continue forcing their people to live in the worst possible conditions. I did not know how dilapidated my old home was in Tennessee until I moved to Illinois and saw the difference between a suburban area here and a suburban area over there. Now when I go to Tennessee and I explore and I see these places that I once thought of as my big beautiful home, it seems dreary and drab. And it's like The governor of Tennessee is a billionaire. Why the heck would anybody want these people to live like this? And that's the type of people that we're dealing with. The people will never understand because they want. That's something that we should not have allowed in the first place. I don't understand why people exist just to oppose the progress that humans are supposed to be making. But I digress. I'm not supposed to understand it. I'm just supposed to oppose it. That's my role, to push back against it, to make sure that it does not take over
You know,
everyone.
like everything you just said is I can relate to that. And I know this probably a switch of topic, but what frustrates me is people like me and you and people that think like us, not having the proper platform to really reach more people. Certain people that selected that doesn't show the good side of our community, and it's frustrating, like Malcolm X once said, is we should not elect celebrities and all of these people to be our voice. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't work, and that creates a narrative. These networks like Zeus Network, who, the young lady I mentioned, Naya Barte, she said she was influenced by baddies. That's why she was fighting every day at the beginning of the year. She said it out of her mouth. She's influenced by baddies, all those fights that they be having on Zeus Network. And that's why these young men and young ladies carry themselves the way that they do. Social media can be powerful in a good way, in a bad way. And for our kids, they always see the bad things more so than the good things, because that's what their parents are teaching them, you know. And as you get in our field and you talk to the parents, you start to understand why that kid is acting that way. I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen it, with parents that will try to put something in the kid's mind to do something, you know, to harm you or to harm themselves. And then the question comes, how do we heal the parent, right? How do we get the parent to deal with their trauma? Well, their trauma was inherited by somebody else that may be dead now. So now it's like, how do you get them out of that comfort zone to take accountability for their trauma and get help for it? So it's a never ending cycle in our community. It's a never ending fight in our community. Two of us is not enough. Never will be enough. My granny always said it takes a village to raise a child. Where's the village at though? The village is long gone. This ain't the 1960s, 70s. It's not no more. But because it's not no more, it doesn't mean that we can't create something better and new. So, with the hope of this meeting tomorrow with us, I hope that we can do that this fall with an actual Black Man Summit. Like I just mentioned, all of these things need to be put into one table. You know, all of these beliefs and anger that we have needs to be put in one table. And then, like you said, we have to come out with an effective plan moving forward for our community. And I'm just talking about St. Louis for now. St. Louis and Illinois, since they're basically together.
The Metro East.
Yeah. I'm not talking about, New York and all this stuff. We have to start where we are at. That's how you get it started. And we have to focus on our region only. It may sound selfish, but I'm not from California. I'm not from New York. I'm from St. Louis, born and raised. you know. So this conversation has to be based between us. And then once we effectively achieve that plan, then maybe we can have a discussion about other areas. But you can't talk about other areas until you get your communities situated first. You know. So yeah,
There's a
I'm
lot of
sorry we went on a
areas to
rant.
fix too. No, you're fine. There's a lot of areas to fix too, and that's another problem of the modern day. It's not just our community that's suffering. Every community is suffering because of the turnaround that's caused by a complacent society. See, me, I'm more of a pragmatic person. If there's something that I don't know, then I will look to somebody else who does know to tell me how to fix it. If there's a problem that I believe is there, then I'm going to look into it to see if it's actually real, if it's actually affecting people. But these people who are wasting our time, our money, our taxpayer dollars, and of course, our reputation on problems that don't exist, like anti-furry bills, or yeah, it's a real thing. I know. It
I'm
passed it
sorry.
in Texas just about a month ago. Those who are also suffering because their parents are nonsense. All we have to do, and it's much more easily said than done, but literally all we have to do is focus on things that are actually there. There are people who've dedicated their entire lives to the socioeconomic situations caused by race relations, by mass burning of black cities, by redlining, by white flight, and police brutality, everything here and in between. There's factual information there that anybody has access to because we have the internet. The people who go online and tell you that these problems don't exist, they choose to believe that because that is what their environment taught them to be stupid willingly, and it doesn't make sense. All we have to do is say, you know what? I'm an adult, so I need to learn. I need to be smart. I need to be a leader. I need to find a real problem, and then I need to fix it. No ideology, no partisan politics. It's literally that simple. And somehow we've managed to move so far away from it that people believe they're eating the dogs and the cats.
It's I always say this, whenever I'm talking to one of the kids that I'm helping, I always say that you can come from an idiot, but you can be the smartest person in the next room. So I helped them analyze what I just said. I said you can come from a idiotic person, but you can end up being the smartest person in the room. It's up to you to
Hmm.
educate yourself when you're alone. See, I'm a guy that likes looking at some everything. I love history, and then I could be looking at a history documentary, and then out of nowhere I'll just look up, you know, North Korea. What is North Korea like? I've studied North Korea for so many years, documentaries, everything. Right? A lot of people don't know about North Korea. It's a dictatorship. It started with
Hmm.
Kim Il Sung, the so-called founder of North Korea, who North Koreans have been brainwashed to believe it's a gift from God, right? And then he passed down to his son, who's supposed to be the Jesus of North Korea. His name was Kim Jong Il, right? Brutal, very brutal, even more brutal than his grandfather. Brutal, was starved the citizens there. He'll be eating steaks and lobsters. He kidnapped South Korean actors for because he loved making movies and stuff. Kidnapped them to make movies like American films. Then after he died, became the current leader, Kim Jong Un, Rocket Man, right? He's building nuclear weapons, doing tests almost every day, you know. And I always talk about the region to my youth just for them to understand what's going on around the world, right? Because they only know about they block in St. Louis. They don't know about what's going on everywhere. So that's what I mean when I say you can come from an idiot, but you can be the smartest person in the room. It's just about educating yourself. And with our kids, they don't know their history. The reason I said I love history is because every time I believe that I know about all the Black history, something new comes up in history. You never really know all of history, but they don't know most of their history. Black history, all they know about is some of slavery. They don't even know the real facts of slavery. They they know about Dr. King but not the Dr. King that we've learned through history. They only know about the "I Have a Dream" speech. They don't know anything about the bus boycott. They don't know anything about him and the Nobel Peace Prize. They don't know anything about him in the Poor People's Campaign that he was about to start before he was assassinated. They don't know any of this stuff. They just know about I Have a Dream. But in one of his last interviews, he said that that dream turned into a nightmare and that he felt that he led his people into an abandoned building. They never know about that. They don't know about Brother Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Marcus Garvey, Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois. They don't know anything about these people, right?
Even Fannie Lou Hamer.
Yes, they don't know anything about Shirley Chisholm. They don't know anything about any of these people. Our young ladies don't know how great their ancestors was.
Even Lucy Craft Laney, pioneer of education.
They don't know anything. Our young black ladies don't know anything about Madam C.J. Walker, right? They have their combs. They in school they had their combs and they heard gel doing their edges, but they don't know where all them products and stuff came from. Not till I told them. That's the issue. They have Netflix and all these streaming services, but they don't even know that it's a whole TV series about Madam CJ on Netflix. And not until I told them. They don't know any of this stuff. You mentioned in your last comments about them taking out the books out of our school, right? I donated a couple of books from my Audemars, the Girls and Boys Club, Gene Slade's Girls and Boys Club, that consist of Black history books to Normandy Middle School Library. Why did I do that? Because I want them to know about their history when they go to the library. I wrote a book called Why Am I Your Enemy? It's about Emmett Till. It's about a young man going to Mississippi to visit his uncle and getting in some trouble down there. I put my twist on it, of course. Instead of 1955, it happens in 1951. But I had a young lady who read the book and did a painting based off of my book. That's what I mean when I say that history means a lot to our youth and to our community. If they don't know their history and themselves, how can you expect them to think smartly and make smart decisions if they don't know where they come from? A lot of them think they just come from an abandoned household, but they never know their ancestors may be Booker T. Washington. It may be somebody great. And then if they learn about that, they start to feel empowered. They start to feel like, hey, I come from greatness. Let me go ahead and show you a little something that I can do. you know, that's why I always try to teach them how to, use history and how to use storytelling to their abilities. So that's important for us to teach them that.
People don't like to deal with history sometimes because they feel like it traumatizes kids. I cannot believe that any adult would even come out and through their lips say that history is bad because it makes white kids feel bad. If you think that it makes them feel bad, how do you believe that it reflects on those who come from that traumatic, horrible history? And some people like to protect their children, but I don't believe that that is even an option. Our children, they don't have the option to be protected. A lot of them do have to grow up early because they are living in bad situations. And if you're going to force them to grow up early, then maybe you do have to traumatize them a bit to show them how to walk that straight path. And that's something that I have discussed with myself on multiple occasions because I understand that we want children to have the opportunity to be children, but I don't believe that's how you really make leaders. I believe that everybody who is great on either in a good way or a bad way, whether they're genocidal or extremely productive in enriching their society, they came from unideal circumstances. They had to be traumatized a little bit. And when you're learning about history, when you're learning about who you want to be, when you're getting a real picture of why you need to do these extravagant, these amazing things, it's going to be difficult. You're going to face a lot of pain. There are going to be some mental breakdowns. There are going to be a lot of tears. And I'm sure that we both can relate to that, but it's necessary to create real leaders. Because if you don't allow them that, to get that kick in the pants, you'll end up with people who will understand the concept of oppression, and then they'll take that and use it as an excuse to not push forward, as an excuse to accept mediocrity, or they'll just go the opposite way. They believe that oppression exists, even as they are forced down by it, and then they'll fight in opposition of it, despite the fact that they're in their lowest points. It doesn't make sense to me.
And it's like you said, history is not roses and sunshine. You know, when I was in fourth grade, that's when I first learned about Emmett Till. Fourth grade. And guess who I learned it from? It wasn't my social studies teacher. It was my gym teacher
Mm.
that taught me about Emmett Till. And I was when I saw his face through when he died, scared me. I had nightmares almost every night. And it wasn't until, my sixth grade year that I became comfortable seeing his face like that. Then I learned about the four little girls. Spike Lee made an amazing documentary about that, and he showed their bodies. You know, it, our history is dark, but when people say that it's too much for our kids, I say it's not. I
Sorry.
say it. Oh no, you're good. I say it's not. I was in fourth grade when I learned about Emmett Till. Sixth grade when I learned about the four little girls, and now I can tell you any part of history relating to Black people like no other. In college, I took a African civilization class where I got to learn about the African slave trade a lot more than what I learned in high school and stuff. Where I had to learn about the warrior kings before that time, right? Sariyate, Kingdom of Mulan. He was one of the first warrior kings in the Kingdom of Mulan. People when they think of that, they think of Mansa Musa and all them guys. But before it was all them, it was Sariyate, warrior king. He was Muslim too. But learn about our history in Africa and how Mansa Musa was also one of the first people to be on the Americas before Christopher Columbus. He actually visited the Americas by mistake, of course, but he visited the Americas, stepped foot on it. So it's just history like that that really matters, man. A lot of people wouldn't know that, like I didn't before I took that class.
Hmm. So Emmett Till was your first taste. See, my grandparents were not very conflicted about giving me that talk. My experience was being 10 years old and watching Tamir Rice get shot on my television and laptop. That was the first time that I really opened my eyes to a reality in which I was born to do something to make sure things like this don't happen again. And when I made that decision, even then I understood there would be a lot of death and destruction on my way. I was only in the military for a couple of years and I lost just as many people. I've worked, I've fed people, I've tried to help people with housing. I've nurtured those because, I've done a lot of work with the homeless specifically. And every single time I never see someone again, I know that they're dead. It's just another it's just another notch under the belt. Like they're like these homeless people, these old men with no legs, just wheeling around in their wheelchairs with no place to go. I can give them things, I can help them out for the day, but I know I don't have the power to make their lives any better right now. So I just have to cope with the fact that most of the people that I help, I might just never see again. It's an unfortunate reality because unlike somebody who doesn't do that work, I never have to I actually think about these things. I could just say, okay, they'll be all right. I could just sit in my little house all day and hide from the reality of people's bad situations, but that's not how leaders are made. You have to go through that pain of connecting with people, learning about gaining their trauma and adding it to your own as ambition, as a reason to keep going. And I'll just keep doing that throughout my entire life. And hopefully I'll be able to make sure that those people, that those men who I'll never see again, with their little wheelchairs and their little backpacks, might have a place in a world that wasn't made for them.
Yeah, man, it's sad, man. We already come out of the womb a target, you know, having black skin, you know. So we have it rough, man. We do. But as long as we have people like ourselves that can move our community forward, we'll be just fine. Not it has to be a lot more than just me and you, of course. But that's what I always say. It frustrates me when certain people get platforms that don't use them correctly. It frustrates me. It's like, man, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Don't get me wrong. They they probably did deserve the platform, but they're not using it accurately, in my opinion. Like I said, the speaking events, they invite the ones that they know will censor their comments. That's why I appreciate Miss Christy Griffin for giving us the opportunity to come to watch you and to speak on those panels with great panelists, by the way. I had a great time talking to them. They were, full of energy and having the conversation. But there's only three panelists that got back to me. You, Precious Berry, another young lady at Washington University that's on the, she's great, amazing. And then the lady at Harris Stowe who actually wants to know how Harris Stowe can be a help in the fight. Those only three individuals that reached back out to me. Everybody was coming to me after the event, but I haven't heard anybody respond back to me
Hmm.
yet. So it's like, okay, I know who's the serious ones and who's not the serious ones, and I know who will probably be at huge events speaking again and who won't be. But at the end of the day, that's the power of social media. We can make our own platform, so that's all that matters.
Man, I do love Precious. She's an inspiration.
Yes, she's.
I hope that we can get more of her, but she's a generally new college student, so I don't really expect her to be out as much as she used to. Plus she also speaks as a businesswoman, so that girl, she's busy. So I don't expect her to be out all the time, but I do love the work that she's done. She has a very impressive resume. She's gonna be something.
Yeah, man. I watched Precious when I did my internship with Senator Broward Williams. She was on his youth board, and so I've been knowing her for quite a while. And man, she's been doing it, man. Since she was young. So I'm just very proud of her, man. And the great work that she's doing, and she's definitely going to be great. You might turn around, turn on the news. She might be the next president of the United States. You never know. You know, she may be. She's just super ambitious, man. Just super ambitious, and I like that about her. So yeah, she's very vocal too, especially for the youth. So.
I only raised my eyebrow because she's against me. She's only a little younger than us, remember?
Yeah,
In
man.
2040, me versus her. Let's do this.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to be neutral in that instance, man. But no, man, I'll be glad to have two black candidates. Like man, like going well on the Democratic side, going at it to really get that last spot. That'd be great to see instead of two white. I mean, I'm just tired. I'll be glad to see two people from my generation up there. So,
Barack Obama versus Kamala Harris. Who you going for?
oh man, you guys put me in a tough position with that one.
I'm gonna
Seriously,
be
man.
better than Obama though.
Yeah, of course, man. Just gotta just. I don't know, man. I don't know what I'd do if I was president. I don't know.
Oh, I do exactly what Donald Trump is doing. Sign a million executive orders and just hope they go through. Except mine will be gearing towards expanding education healthcare, and my budget will be towards bolstering social services, not destroying them. And I'll actually redirect money using the funds that I know are inherently expendable. And if I don't know which ones are expendable, surprise, I have an entire organization under me that can tell me. I have more knowledgeable people than myself in every sector of of the government that can tell me what I'm supposed to be doing, what is really affecting them. I can knock into these stupid monkeypox, into the measles, into norovirus, into avian flu, increase our public health platform. I can get these cancer particles out of the air that are killing our children. That's what you can do with that type of power. You can make people's lives better instead of making it worse. But we just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, it's. I'm sorry. I'm trying to check my. Okay, trying to check my battery level. We're
It's
good.
funny because you're on a phone, so it's just
Yeah, my laptop wasn't cutting it for some reason. It was acting a fool this morning. But yeah, I'm on my phone and I just try to check my battery life. But yeah, man, it's I'll vote for it. Look, I'm not saying she'll run around for president, but you know, what you just said is true. I don't know what I'd do. Like I said, for if I ran for president, I don't think I would. Um, but also one of the businesses that I forgot to mention, Ethos Streaming. It is a black-owned streaming service, as you can see. That's our logo. Me and my brother, we started it with the hopes of helping new filmmakers be able to get their film on a platform before they make it to the point of Netflix and Tubi. Because with Netflix and Tubi, you still have to go through a process to get your film on there, and it may be too hard for filmmakers. For Tubi, you have to have a certain uh, uh, film quality to have it on there. Whereas with our streaming service, your film quality can be iPhone quality. What we are trying to do is provide a pathway for you to be able to be noticed, and then we make your next film for it to land on a huger platform. So that's what Ethos Streaming is all about. We're currently in the process of getting our website updated, and then hopefully 5 years from now we can get some real funding for a physical app, have it on Roku and all those services. So yeah, I just started this. We also started this last year as well. So I'm pretty fresh in my businesses. And that is the logo behind me, by the way. So yeah. So I just wanted to mention that in the podcast.
yes, I should have turned that. I should have mentioned that a long time ago. I actually meant to. I don't know when I got sidetracked. It was probably somewhere between mentorship and Fannie Lou Hamer.
We got sidetracked when I started my rant. I started going on a rant and stuff. But yeah, that's
I
my
just have a
fault.
bridge behind me, so much more boring.
That's a beautiful background, by the way.
Yeah, but it does this to my face.
Yeah.
It turns me red.
I mean, my face, you probably can't really see it because of the sign behind me. So I have to sit up at times like this just so you can see my face. But yeah.
Oh wait, hold on. I should ask one of these questions. What do you hope people will remember most about your impact on the community?
That's a hell of a question. Wow. Um, I want to be remembered as the guy that would take the shirt off his back and give it to anybody in need. It's not about me. It's about the people that I help. I want to be remembered through them. You know, when you think about my name, I want you to think about every single one of them that I've helped and let them tell the story. I know it might be a biography and all that stuff, but their stories is how you understand me, what I was able to do for them and where they are at now. So when it's all said and done and my pavement is dry, I want you to look at them first before you think of me. Because without them, there would be no me. And then also, I had to think of my mom. Everything you get from me comes from her being a teacher all the way to a principal. There would be no Malik Al-Mawt or my birth name that she gave me, Christian Griffin, without her guidance and help. So I owe it all to my mom, my granny, my sisters, my aunties, and those people that I'm helping right now. So that's what I'm doing. I want to be remembered for.
Mm. Now that is an amazing answer. That is an amazing answer.
Yeah, it's same for you, man. When the pavement is dry, what do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered as the person who can actually learn from his mistakes.
What do
My
you?
resume, though generally impressive on paper, is lined with a lot of failure and a lot of lessons. I want to be remembered as a person who, despite being kind of a screw up, is inherently benevolent, who is compassionate, who is discerning, who can see something that he made an oversight on and immediately fix it. That's something that many politicians are addressed as people who mean well but make mistakes, especially on the Democratic side, because you can understand what something says on paper and then you can see the implementation that has gone wrong. I want people to remember me as somebody who can actually see how these things are going to be implemented, see the overall effect. And if it's not what I wanted, move in and change it for the better. That's the reason why so many people have a problem with the only things in our government that are actually good. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and of course, free public education. Because there are cracks in the system and people can make all these conspiracy theories, exacerbating them, turning them into problems that they are actually not, those are things that make people believe somehow, some way, that them not being there is better. And yes, to most people, that seems like a nonsensical thought, but to them, because of that little bit of skepticism, it seems justified. And the people who want to tear so they can gather more money or more influence for themselves, they can convince those people to do that by highlighting these little cracks or making up bigger cracks that have roots in those cracks. So I want to be known as a person who learns, a student and a servant.
That's powerful, man. And I'm glad that you emphasize that student part. Like you, I love learning. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't have all the answers. Still learning as we go. But a servant is what I am. Like you said, it's not about me. It's about serving my community. And as you get to know me, I love poems. So we have the things that I say end up rhyming for some reason. But you know, it's it's just amazing the work that we do, and I never take it for granted. Whether it's through art, you know, or style. It's one of my clothing's for my brand, my logo for the Juvenile Minds business. But you know, I love clothes, and I'm sure a lot of people love clothes. I love dressing the part, and I'm just different. I don't believe that there's anybody before me with my ideas. I have an idea. I don't know if I should show it because somebody might steal it, but I have an idea for a water bottle. Um, I don't know if I want to show it because somebody might
Well,
steal it.
we can
But
mention it. We can mention it when we meet.
okay,
We
well,
can
I'm sure
mention it in
this.
person.
sure this toothbrush idea is just a toothbrush. I don't care if somebody steal it, but you know, you probably can see them. It's like a toothbrush
Oh,
with like a coffin and then a skull for the top. Now, it might be weird to many, but the meaning behind it means that when you go on the north and west side of St. Louis, which is predominantly black, on almost every corner there's a graveyard or a funeral home. Reason being is because they believe that because in that area is so much black and black crime, that those are the only places that those individuals in that area are going to end up at. In a graveyard or at a funeral home. Kids, you know, every corner is a graveyard, funeral home, or a corner store, liquor store. That's it. Where if you go on the south side, you have all these booming plazas like Burlington, Snooks, all these fast food places, and all these greatness and oh, not that many abandoned buildings. But when you go on the black side of town, that's all you see is graveyards, liquor stores, and all those things, right? So with this little logo, it's to troll or make a mockery of what they're saying and change the meaning of it. You
okay.
know, you can build all of those things in my community, but guess what? I'm not gonna let it affect my people. So that's the meaning of that symbol. You know why I did that.
Oh man, you saying that actually reminds me. Everything that keeps going reminds me of the April advertise at all. With
I
my
think
apologies.
I think that your screen froze.
Okay, so it was.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah, it's on froze now. It just had froze up at that moment. Here we go. Okay. All right. But yeah, continue.
Okay. See, that reminded me of the April elections and in which I was very disappointed because I wanted Jones to win. See, I am more of a stats guy, and I understand that some people were perturbed by the implementation, by the surveillance aspects of reducing said crime, but St. Louis, since we were born, was the murder capital of America. And in the 8 little years that she was there, she saw a 43% decrease in violent crime or homicide. It was a 13% decrease in violent crime and a 43% decrease in homicides. That's the reason why St. Louis dropped from number one for the first time since before we were born down to number two in 2023. And I think that they're number three now in homicides. That is such an amazing stat to me. And I know there's context behind it that some people don't like, but come on, you have such a big number. St. Louis is literally a hotspot for murder. Why would you not celebrate that and keep the person who that might just be a case of Miss Jones not accepting responsibility for the in her system, and people were able, especially Kara Spencer, was able to highlight that because she's a time critic of Jones. And I don't think that Kara Spencer is a bad person, but if all you can do as an alder complain about the mayor, then maybe you're not doing your job. Ah, man, it's just that stat to me. It was so amazing. I've worked with some of Miss Jones' associates pretty closely. I have her father's phone number. I don't know why. So, but it it disappointed me so much to see Kara Spencer jump into that seat because the things that she ran on are so superficial. This on giving the impression of safety, giving the impression of good streets without actually doing something to fix these dang. I mean, don't get me wrong, potholes need to be filled, but you have the executive authority to actually make moves towards that. So instead of complaining about what the mayor is doing, who has literally less power to do that than you do, or more so the same, the township supervisor would actually be the one or one of the main people to fix that. But uh, I don't know. I really do think St. Louis screwed up in electing Kara Spencer. If you're going to run on superficial issues that don't even address the real, meaningful, all encompassing problems in your city and then win, I'm automatically going to look at you like you're a joke. Because there was no real substance in the things that she said that she promised. At least not to me. The positive stats that I've been, they're not going to continue if you just focus on those things. Then the bad stuff's I just think the bad stuff's going to come back. And that might just be me being pessimistic. Maybe St. Louis as a whole has changed a lot and they're going to continue that streak of lowering the violent crime, but it's not going to be because of anything the legislators do. That would be good. I hope that happens. I hope that I'm wrong, but I would rather see the person who gets results in the because that person is supposed to be a symbol for that city. That is what a mayor is. That governor is. That is what a president is. Even though they do head government, they are also mostly a head of state. And if somebody who has those types of numbers is sitting in the front, then that's going to give me hope. That's going to give me comfort. That's just me.
You know, the one thing that we have to stop doing is judging people based off of situations that doesn't relate to, the numbers that you just mentioned. A lot of the issues that arose against former Mayor Jones was issues against, civil rights workers relating to their spouses, or, you know, her being very vocal about the things that she has done, but yet most of those supporters support a guy in the White House that tells lies after lies after lies about what he supposedly did, but she actually did the work. So, in St. Louis, man, we have this issue where we elect a candidate that does the work right, and then in the next sentence, because of something that happened, whether it's small or big, we say, oh, this person isn't perfect, so they got to go. Then we reelect somebody that has been in the position for 10 years that hasn't really had a good track record regarding homicides, nor has had a really good track record with the things that she said that she would do. But because of the stigma of having a black person in office that is doing the work, they have an issue with it. And a lot of times it be our people as well, not just white people or any other community. It's like we are a lot of times our biggest downfall, because I have seen some black sisters and brothers that was on social media saying that she got to go. So, I can't pull that card. I just can't, because they were one of the top vocalists in her leaving. But since Kara Spencer has took it to office, they have started to do the same thing. I'm not defending her or nothing, but she's only been in office for so long. And due to the tornado and stuff, people are already criticizing her. The streets that's falling in, they're already criticizing her and stuff like that. She just got in. So I do want to see more from her, especially with homicides, because come on,
Mhm.
man, that is our biggest issue. And when Elliot Davis asked some questions to her about homicide, she didn't give him a direct answer. Like, come on, you got to have a plan. In high school, I wrote a homicide plan during Lyda Cruison's time. And not yet have any one of those mayors, even Mayor Jones, have looked at that homicide plan. I guarantee you that homicide plan will help even a lot more with getting these crimes now. It addresses the so-called gangs in St. Louis, right? I have an idea for a rehabilitation center for those gang members instead of prison and all that stuff, because I feel that it just adds to their anger. You know, we talk about subdivision police uh buildings in these areas of high crime, like Fox Park had one, is which I where I used to live, and it worked greatly. It's a lot of things in a plan that could work, but again, everybody believes that they know everything. They do, and if you like, I've offered it to either one of them. I've been annoyed. I mean, ignored. I've been turned down. Now, Mayor Jones did a hell of a job on homicides, but I do feel that this plan could even more reduce that number even more. And Kara Spencer, I don't even know her plan. We'll see. I guess over time. But it's just like, man, it comes a point in time where if you want consistency across the city, you have to keep the same person in office and give them time to make change. The last mayor that really had so many times in office was Mayor Slay. But you need a real leader that's gonna actually do the work. Not, I don't remember Mayor Slay's time, and I should probably research it. Because I don't
We were
remember.
babies.
Yeah, I don't remember anything that he did effectively. But I, it comes to a point in time where consistency across the boards is what achieves better opportunities. For Normandy School District, the same thing can be said. They had so many different superintendents and principals over the years. You can't expect the kid to respect you or respect the principal or leader that has just come in all of the times that they've been at that school. Same with the superintendent. You need consistency. You need a consistent leader. And until you get that, you won't see any change.
Well, that's I I do agree that you do need a consistent leader who's an actual leader. You have to get in there. But when it comes to us trying to talk to those people, that's the problem that we mentioned earlier. The fact that these people like to stay on their high horses, that they think they know everything. Another thing that Wesley Bell told me last time they talked to them is something that I get from politicians a lot. Let us know how to help you, even though I'm literally asking you to let me help you. You already have responsibilities. You have to fly to Washington, D.C. every other friggin' week, if not every. I can do the things that you are not able to. You are a face. I am a civilian. Let me be a part of this. And then they turn around, they're like, "Oh, come on, give me your woes, give me your burdens." But when we actually come to them saying, "Hey, here's a solution," they don't listen. It's not because they don't want to hear it, it's because we're not important enough. Thing that I hate. Because how are you going to be that type of leader if you do not give the people a chance to speak, whether it's because they don't have a reputation, whether it's because they're not directly related to you, whether or not it's because they don't believe in what you believe, or they don't see the same reality as you. It's just we are not important enough. That's true. They have a lot more influence than us, but we are people who actually get out there and do the groundwork. We have a resume, we have actual progress to our names, and we have the ambition, we even have written plans on how to do these things. So why exactly are you not at least sending a representative to listen? If you are just sitting there twiddling your thumbs, well, the framework of your city, of your state, of your nation is being destroyed, but you're not willing to listen to alternatives because, oh, I'm this big bad guy. I know what's best for everybody. Martin Luther King actually did that too with the Freedom Riders. He told them to turn around and go home because he didn't want anybody else to be hurt. He wanted to take that responsibility for himself. Well, sorry, Dr. King, but you doing these things all by yourself is not how we make change. Sorry, Bell. Sorry, Hoffman. Sorry, literally everybody. Those are just the ones that I talked to. But you are not a force of nature. You are one person who has a voice. And if you're just going to use that voice your whole life without uplifting everybody else's, then you are just going to die in silence like everyone else. It's not going to make you different. You're not going to go in those history books. And even if you do, what exactly is it going to mean if you don't leave anything behind?
And I wish that voters also will look at that more so than anything. Like you just mentioned, they always ask how they can help us. When you would think that when we are electing them, they would know what we need and what we need help with. See, we know what we need help with. We know what our communities need. But why so? Why is it that the voters don't elect people like us? They say they want this change, but they continue the same cycle of electing a person that, number one, has been funded by an organization that has been aligned with, conservatives and Trump, which
And
all is all,
Israel.
yeah, by BIPAC. It has been written down on paper. It has been mentioned by them on a website many times, and yet they believe this is the person to all of a sudden change things, right? It doesn't make sense to me what these voters are thinking. Then when they get let down, that's when the anger rearises. It's like you repeating the same cycle. You're running to the same wall. You're not finding a way to get over the wall or break through it. And it frustrates me because I haven't seen one leader actually say this. A lot of people are too afraid to bite their tongues. But I can no longer sit around and watch the same people bite their tongues. And it's the same generation of people that's older than us that does this. One of the guys at the event, he said that when I mentioned that I'm sick of all these organizations that have the same mission competing with each other. He said, we've been trying to say this for 35 years. I said, well, damn. To myself, I said, well, dang. For 35 years, you've been saying the same thing. But then I looked at him, I said, I haven't seen this guy speak on TV, haven't seen him speak on the huge platforms, and it's for a reason. Because the same things that we want, they will never, ever, ever let us say that on TV or anything. I haven't been interviewed to be on the TV. People can Google me, but the last conversation that I had on the actual TV was for the position on the Civilian Oversight Board that I just been elected to. And they cut my interview. They cut most of it up, chopped it up, so where you couldn't hear everything that I said. You know, that's the type of games that they play. Whereas this podcast with me and you, they can get a raw conversation of what's being said. That'll never happen on any other platform. So when we are running for these elected positions, right, and we're at the podium speaking and talking about what we can do, these are the things that need to be said. The reason that politicians don't want any of our homicide plans and stuff like that, like you just mentioned, is because they're on their own power trip. I'm pretty sure Bell is thinking about running for the Senate sooner or later. And he's playing it smartly because Missouri is conservative. Not saying he's going to do anything, but he's making sure that the conservatives on that side understand that he's not as vocal as Cory Bush was, and that he's not on their side. His time in the county office, he had a chance to reopen the Michael Brown case. He did.
Mhm.
So why would you expect him to do anything for black people? You know what I'm saying? If he would not have, if he did not want to reopen the Michael Brown case, what makes you think he's going to do anything for you? Especially when he's getting funded by a group that doesn't care about you. But I don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe you can explain to me why we think that way.
Well, hold on. I want to add something to your statement first before I answer that question. Maryland's black governor, we just heard about a couple weeks ago, he shot down an initiative that was already passed to reopen a reparations case for the people in his county, and his excuse was we need to worry about what's happening now. Those are the type of people that we need to replace because they're representing us, our community, as well as all these people, and they're making us look like we don't even want to building a system that works for us. That is a terrible thing. Both and Bell need to get their butts in gear if they want to make something happen. Otherwise, they're just going to be another seat holder, a little seat warmer that's going to be replaced after people actually start caring. Or they'll get replaced if people stop caring and they don't vote for Democrats in the first place. Either way, doesn't work. But as for your question, that's just, unfortunately, it is a typical pendulum swing that is based on factors such as the economy and, of course, social sentiment. By the time Reagan came in and all of the media press against him was so negative that he got rid of the Fairness in Media Act, and then he allowed corporations to take over what were non-corporate public entities in news, giving less biased actual news with real reporters going to places that most wouldn't in real time to figure out what's going on. By that time, tensions were already high. Reagan's election, to me, was a direct response to the civil rights movement and Lyndon B. Johnson's recession as a result of OPEC. They were able to use that. And of course, Reagan's great advertising. His advertisements are still in the history books, but that mostly was happening during his second election anyway. Those terms, Reagan and H.W. Bush, were a direct result of Lyndon B. Johnson and of course the preceding civil rights movement because the pendulum swings depending on the social sentiment of everyone at that time. If we go in one direction for too long, then it's going to fly in the other direction. The difference is that Reagan's was much more extreme than we saw before. If it was a more moderate person, if it was a regular Republican who sat in that seat, who wasn't backed by the Heritage Foundation but got the primary win, they still would have won. But instead, because it started going in such a direction, Republicans in the last 45 years, heck, in the last 20 years, they have moved three times more right than Democrats have left, which is why we have moderates versus authoritarians in the modern day, because it's going to keep swinging back and forth. As soon as people get these Republicans out of office, like they did with H.W. Bush, they are hit with perception bias. They see Bill Clinton and they're like, wow, this person actually runs a country well. We haven't had that in about 16 years. And during those 16 years, they completely forgot what it was like. But then people start poking holes in Bill Clinton's narrative saying, "Oh, he's doing this. Oh, he's doing that. Look at that. He got impeached for cheating on his wife and then lying under oath." But after that narrative is pushed, oh, we've gone too far left, or the Social Democrats are trying to take over, even though it's not really happening, that pendulum swings right back in the other direction. And we get George W. Bush, who again just implemented more tax cuts to the rich that tanked our economy, threw us into another recession especially during the housing crisis. And because of perception bias, which is the case of people putting others into boxes based on what they expect. They expect Republicans to do bad. They expect them to be incompetent. So what keeps happening is seen as normal. Meanwhile, they expect Democrats to be all clean and pristine and good. So whenever they do anything bad, whether it's wearing a tan suit, cheating on their wife, or stumbling up the stairs, it becomes a huge media phenomenon. And then they're like, oh, dang, well, that Democrat is not perfect. We need to get rid of them, even though they just restored our economy and put our nation back on the world platform. Happened with Bill Clinton, happened with Obama, although Obama's was arguably worse because we got Trump as a result of that. He was a Democrat and he was black. So they had to say, ooh, That's that's actually something good. We have to swing that pendulum as far right as possible to make up for the fact that he was half black. And then we got Donald Trump. Then we swung back after we realized, oh, this man's hurting our country. But then Joe Biden came in. He recovered us from what would have been the worst recession of our of our history, our modern history. He got us back open again as a nation a year before the rest of the G7. Best dang recovery in the world. And they said, you know what? He didn't make things like they were before, even though that would be statistically impossible because the entire manufacturing chain was destroyed during COVID. But because he did not do something that was impossible, oh, we got to get rid of him again. Bring in the other guy who destroyed us in the first place. And that's just where we are. That pendulum swing is almost impossible to avoid. And even though I do have hope that things are going to swing back into the direction of democracy, we're going to have to take a lot of advantage of that because it will be temporary. We're going to get our democracy back. We're going to get track. We're going to start implementing civil rights that they're destroying. We're going to start moving back towards clean air. But if we don't maximize that time with effective leaders, it's going to swing right back, and that will be the fall of America. There's not going to be anything left.
Yeah, you said it perfectly, man. I mean, so with civil rights, especially at this time, you know, the one thing that you mentioned the most is that with either side, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, they have this image that they want black people to follow. You know, the suit, the tie, a nice haircut, and then what they want them to say or not do. You know, at this time, as voters and as people, we have to look past that and, like you said, put the right people in position that know themselves and that knows the people that they are representing. You know, I strongly don't believe that Wesley Bell is that person. I just don't think it. You know, I don't believe that he truly understands black people that's in need in St. Louis. I don't, I don't believe that he knows what people on the north and west side of St. Louis is going through with all those abandoned buildings around them, the violence, the homicides. You know, I strongly believe that until we get a leader that understands those our people, you again won't see any change. As far as civil rights, we've had the same people at the forefront, Reverend Al Sharpton, you know, um, Jesse Jackson.
Reginald Petty, in your case.
Yeah. I mean, we had these same people repeating the same thing over and over and over again for years. When somebody get killed, it's singing, it's marching, and then they disappear after that. And it's like, dang, you were singing "We Shall Overcome," but now you go. You know, you were singing all like Dr. King, the reference to Dr. King earlier on when he's told the Snick, who's the people who were doing the freedom rides, when he told them that he wouldn't get on the bus and that they should turn back because he don't want to see any more people get hurt. That's when they started looking at him different. Like, what you mean you don't want to get on the bus? Like, you supposed to be the stature of this movement. You supposed to be the person in this fight. You don't want to get on the bus. And then they said that he said to them, well, he explained to them like he was Jesus and they were the disciples. So that's why he wouldn't get on the bus for them. And they kind of looked back at him like, wait a minute. That's why SNCC and the SCLC didn't work together that much anymore because of that moment. In civil rights, we as Gen Z have to now step up and fix that. You know, the young people in Birmingham was the ones that brought attention to the Birmingham campaign when those dogs was biting them. Don't get me wrong, Reverend Al Sharpton and them, they've been in the game for a long time. But it comes a point in time. where all that money that he has gotten and all of that money that Jesse Jackson has gotten, where we have to look back and say, I don't think these are our leaders anymore. Because Malcolm X died with $100 in his pocket. That's it. $100. Not $5 million, $20 million. Not saying that you should be broke, don't get me wrong. But when the only thing that you focus on is receiving money from a civil rights incident, then you are no longer a leader in our community. You are a distraction and you are an issue to us. And I believe that your only mission is to lead us down a dark path and make money from us. You don't want to figure out the solution. You don't want to figure out how to successfully reduce racism. Racism will never end, of course, because people are just hateful. But you can reduce it. And I don't think these individuals want to reduce it. Like I said, they just want to be the next Dr. King, Malcolm X. Oh, did you catch anything I just said?
No, but I think that the camera did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my this thing it does stuff like that, you know.
Yeah. So it's like with those leaders, we have to again give the people with the right message the proper platform. It's so much like focus on ignorance and stuff like that. Even the music, don't get me wrong. When I was, when I was in the court, my mom and grandma they would play soulful music, music that you feel in your soul, music that made you happy. Where you go to the cookout, you dance, and you know what I mean. The drill music is just not it.
I
It's
don't
just not
I,
it. You know, and I get it. I use art to express myself, but it's the same toxic music. You can't go to a cookout and play that. You can't go as soon as that music come on the house party. It's military type weapons all up in the air. Now it's a shootout. Now it's a homicide. I just don't think drill music is good for our kids. Now it's sounding like the government. Don't get me wrong. Hip hop is our culture. Tupac, Biggie, all those guys. Yes, they're our culture. So when Gen A and our generation says, well, drill music is just, the new Tupac and Biggie. No, no, it's not. No, it's not. Because with Tupac and Biggie and gangster rap, you were feeling what they were saying.
It was the
NWA.
pain.
Yes, you were feeling it with drill music. It's like, it just sounds demonic. It just sounds, like you glorifying killing somebody. Whereas they were saying, hey, this is my community. This is why I dress this way. This is why I act this way. Where you were just glorifying the guns and the killing your brother and sister and money. And this is how you have to be. You have to be a demonic person. That's why I'm creating an album that's coming out November 19th. The first single is going to be called Black Roots, released in July 18th. And with this album, it's a new sound, it's a new feeling, and it brings back that soulful vibe, to hip hop, the art of it, and it's me basically saying the drill era is over and it's time for a new era. So you've been seeing so many artists, older artists saying, okay, if you don't like drill music, what are you going to do to push it out of the way? Well, what I'm going to do is create a new sound, a new era, a new art, that can help rejuvenate the minds of our kids to where they can dance, feel empowered, and feel happy, but can relate to it. It won't be the drill sound. It'll be something different. I'm from St. Louis, and I know when you're from St. Louis, you got to support Sexy Red, right? Well, I just, me being the brave person that I am, I just don't agree with her message and anything. Now, I get she from St. Louis, and that's my people, and I get that's how she dressed, and I don't have any problem with how she dressed or anything like that. It's just what she is promoting through our music, you know. And parents are our age and parents a little bit older that has these Gen 8 kids are listening to it and letting them listen to it. And now they on TikTok
I
doing all this.
I hope not.
Oh, they doing it, man. They do. A parent came to the school blasting Sexy Red in her car, picking up her daughter. Her daughter. It's affecting our kids to where now that's another fight that we have. We're trying to help. help them. It's just the toxic, ignorant stuff on social media is overcoming our kids more so than the good people like us that they should be listening to. So social media can be good or bad, but I just don't support her message. And, I think she's a great person. I think deep down she's a great person because her story is crazy when you think about it and
Hmm.
what she had to go through. But I think it comes a point in time when you become a certain age to let that stuff go. That let that image go. She almost 30 or close to it. Now it's time to act your age. I would expect that from a 19 to 18-year-old that's still just coming out of a uh, minor age, still learning about themselves. When you almost 30, man.
I feel like she's like 20. I think she's 25. Megan the Stallion's the one that's almost 30.
Sexy, sexy. I thought she was 26, 27.
No, I went to school. I actually had a show. I was in a show, a fellow for Encore STL with somebody who went to high school with her.
Yeah, she went to Normandy. That's where I
Hmm.
work at. But even still, man, 25, don't, dude, you're
Yeah.
not, nah, you gotta start thinking of something else.
I gotta be devil's advocate here. You gotta remember it's the money. All of that ratchet
Yeah.
hood music, it is perpetuated, it is funded by people who don't look like us, who want that image to be put into the world. That's why rap has changed so much, because when it started, that was the whole point, to perpetuate those negative stereotypes. Then you had meaningful rappers, people who actually had a message to share come in, and ever since then it moved more into the R&B and hip hop, where it's more love and sex than anything. And
Yeah.
then nowadays it's kind of moving back into that area with the drugs and the killing, but you've also got this new age music literally pushing back against it, so it can't come back. See me? I don't know much about the more hood music. When I think of drill music, I think of Ice Spice because she's
Oh,
a
man.
drill rapper.
No, STL is in Chicago is known for like the demonic drill type. I'm not gonna say any names because um I don't want to hurt anybody's money or anything like that. But yeah, man, the Ice Spice is not the drill music I'm talking about. And sexy is not even the. That's just a little glimpse of it.
She's just a booty rapper.
Yeah, it's just yeah. Drill music is what I'm talking about is what I just mentioned, all them guns in a bucket and all those military style weapons and talking about I killed this person, I killed that person, and oh yeah, I did something to that gang. Oh, forget the ops, and it's just a demonic energy that comes from it, and that's what our kids are learning. Where more so me and you maybe had our mothers and grandma playing their mama or playing some Luther Vandross or something like that, even though that wasn't our time, but we were still raised on good music. When it was time for cleanup day in the house, that music was gonna be blasting some Patti LaBelle, some Michael Jackson, some what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
we got a feel of that music, the soul of it. You know what I'm saying? Whereas those kids, if you talk to them about Tupac, they're like, I've heard one song about Tupac, but I don't understand how he helps us. So then I have to pull out Brenda Has a Baby, Keep Your Head Up, Dear Mama, just to show them the art of hip hop and let them know like what you listen to nowadays. I get this your generation, but it's not the art form of hip hop, and that's why I'm so happy that Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole are still a essence from that time. That they are still here, really creating that art, not art, but creating that unique style that every other rapper right now doesn't have. That's why I applaud Tyler the Creator. He's himself.
Yeah, he is very much himself. My goodness.
Yeah, man. And I'm myself too, man. I have my own style. I look forward to sharing Black Roots with y'all. And I have so many things coming up. My Black Man Healing Guide, which is going to be great for Black men, and then my album, and just be on the lookout.
You got it. See me, I'm more of a Young Money guy myself. Don't get me wrong, I like everything else. Like I grew up with the the music that was mine, not my parents. I would usually listen to Future, Rick Ross, Rihanna, but Young Money, I feel like that's what I really sunk into. I'm a huge Barb, a ridiculously huge Barb. Like you look at my YouTube playlist, there was one month where I was top 0.1% of Nicki Minaj listeners.
Yeah, that era was again what we was raised on. Lil Wayne, Drake, Nicki, that duo, Rick Ross, DJ Khaled, his
Mhm.
remixes, and I'm on one. I was just listening to that song this morning, and I'm on one. Drake was even though you know, I may be a little biased, even though he's getting destroyed in his beef with Kendrick. You can't deny his greatness,
No,
especially
nobody's gonna
at that
deny
time.
Drake.
Yeah, a lot of these kids nowadays, like, oh, Drake he's never been good. Kendrick's just destroying him. Well, Kendrick's just a lyrical beast.
Yeah.
I don't even know why he even opened that can of worms. If J. Cole even want that smoke, yeah, Drake got to chill. But no, Drake, man, you couldn't go from the 2009 all the way to 2013 without him being on at least somebody hook. His hooks is like Nate Dogg's. For the little kids probably watching these streaming services, G and A who don't know what Nate Dogg is, yeah, you need to go back and listen to his hooks. Nate Dogg was that guy. But yeah, Drake, man, he's always been, one of the greats. You know, uh, of course, Lil Wayne, 50 Cent, he was that guy.
And of course Jay-Z, because he's always the one at the top,
And I
even
know
though
this,
he never really had his era.
yeah, he was always in an argument. I know this might be controversial because y'all hear his name differently now, but man, Kanye West back in the early 2000s was a problem.
hmm No,
Now,
nobody says that he's a great that he's nobody will ever deny that Kanye West has a vivid history in hip hop. People just hate that he's a Nazi, and they should because we don't want black Nazis. That's not a thing that should ever exist in the first place. Same with Drake. They try and spit on his name now, but he also is just the most decorated, most streamed. He's always been that big man on top, and his ego really got to him when he decided to mess with Kendrick, who, despite having a very low discography compared to him, was still always in the top five when the best rapper list came out. Meanwhile, Drake is eight or 10. He usually tends to switch with Nicki Minaj. Do you see those little Billboard top rapper lists? Because I've kept up with them for a long time, and those two they like to switch places.
they're a joke, man. I mean, I saw one. Don't get me wrong, Jay-Z is great, but he's not the greatest rapper of all time. And I'm just gonna come out and say the greatest rapper of all time is Tupac Shakur. When you are, it's not just about his lyrics and music. It's about the impact that he had across the world. You have colleges teaching classes about this guy. You have morals in Africa, and you know, young kids with their guns in Africa taking a picture in front of his mural. You go in any part of the world and ask somebody about Tupac, and they'll say something, say how he impacted them, just like Michael Jackson. You know, Tupac is in fact the greatest rapper of all time, and I don't believe that anybody, not even Eminem, not even him, can reach that stature. Don't get me wrong, Eminem has the highest selling album of all time.
Money.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna say, but Tupac is the greatest rapper of all time, and any list that doesn't have him number one is a joke right off the bat. And then, my top five of all time, maybe controversial, was Tupac, Biggie, Nas, Big Pun, and Big L. You know, all different styles, all unique in their own way. Then you could throw in Rakim, LL Cool J, Big Daddy Kane, KRS-One, and oh man, what's that guy's name, man? He was so great. Oh, I have to think about it, but he's a unique rapper, very underrated. He influenced Nas. Um, but those guys, man, those top five are just different, you know, just different. So yeah, I seen the list, and I don't agree with him.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think that most people do, just for many different reasons. But see, me, I'm more on the agreement side. That's just because I understand where they're going through. I understand where they're coming from, I mean, because they want in more towards the modern artists. I'm gonna share my screen here for a second. Like, I understand where they're coming from because the only reason that Tupac is even down here is because he's a 90s rapper. Because that's all he could make it to. He's and because the times keep changing and new milestones keep being reached with every new generation. See, the reason that Jay-Z's here is because he was the one who raised this guy and this guy. Because Jay-Z was the one who brought up Lil Wayne, who created Young Money in the first place. They feel like he has all of the he feels like they feel like he has all the influence because he's the one who created all these amazing artists, or he was like their dad.
But
That's literally it.
the piggyback off you, who you think produces Jay Z? Not Dame Dash. Big Daddy Kane gave him his first start, and then who else did he learn from? The Notorious B.I.G., who I just looked at your list, number 6. If Biggie
Mm-hmm.
didn't pass away, will we be even mentioning Jay Z? Because everything that Jay Z has did since Biggie passed away was Biggie planting
Mm-hmm.
ideas. I've looked at Biggie's plan and his bodyguards and what they were saying. This dude was about to sign, I think he said a 60 million deal. He had Junior Mafia. He was going to sign Jay Z and them under his thing before Rockefeller even came into existence. He had something called a commission that had Jay Z and Cameron, and a couple other rappers that was gonna be under that. But he sadly, like Tupac, he had met his demise. And like you said, Tupac cement dried up in the '90s, but he's been dead what 30, almost 30 years now, and
Mm-hmm.
and people still talk about him. He
They
did so
will.
much in such a time, movies and music. They still talk about him. That alone makes you a goat. You know, let's say Jay Z would have passed away at that time. I don't think we would have been talking about Jay Z for 30 years.
I
It's
don't
just,
think.
yeah. And Kendrick, don't get me wrong, Kendrick is, oh my goodness. In 2013, I remember when he really blossomed on the scene. Uh, you know, his music really helped me through the summertime in 2013. I'm still young, but man, the first song I ever heard from Kendrick was what was the first song? Let me think. Cause I heard a lot of them. It was Swimming Pools.
Hold up. Drink. Headshot.
Yeah.
Drink. Sit down. Drink.
Of course, I
Stand up.
didn't know what it meant at that time, but it was just like, man, I just love that beat. I just love the voiceover. It's just a summer song.
I
So,
didn't understand the meaning when I first heard it either, so you're good.
so Kendrick is definitely top 15 in my opinion. Maybe controversial in other people's eyes, but Kendrick is definitely top 15. But those top 10 that I named just had to give people they respect and they flowers, man.
I don't know about Nas, because his career was so short, even though he's still alive. I understand that his first album was just about the best that's ever come, but at the same time, it's his image dried up so quickly. Now he's kind of just a guy. I don't know. I
He
feel
still
like I feel like he does not have nearly enough influence to be here. That's just my opinion.
for sure. I could see that. He's still making albums and stuff, but his first two albums were just arguably his one of the greats. His first album is arguably one of the greatest albums of all time because every song on that album was just play where you just couldn't skip it. You know, man, that first album. If we talk about albums, it may be the greatest album I ever heard in my life. It may be controversial because so many great albums out there, but you couldn't skip a song on that album. And I don't know how many albums you could say that about. Lil Wayne, his Carter. Uh, dang man, which Carter? I'm trying to remember which Carter.
Meet the Carter? No, Meet the Carters? Was that it? No, no,
No,
that
what's I think it was
was.
Carter 3. No, no,
Mm,
no. It's the Carter album that has him as a baby on it.
mm.
Long story short, he's a baby and he has like a little blue suit on. But that album is probably the only other album that I could think about where I didn't skip a song on. Them two albums right there. So I can see why Nas. I don't think he's top three, but I think he's top 10. You know,
Mm.
um, Snoop Dogg. I mean, I forgot to mention Snoop Dogg in my top five, but Snoop Dogg is. Yeah, in my opinion, just one good album. Dog Doggy Style. I mean, that's the only good album that I felt maybe controversial, but after that, I mean, it was no other album that lived up to that album.
Snoop Dogg is definitely on here because of his influence again. Even though Jay-Z at least had, he had some great albums. He had some good talent, but he put a lot. But Snoop Dogg definitely put way more in than he got out, or that he put way more into the world than he actually put in his music. So even though he's a godfather of rap, I wouldn't really put him in here either.
Honestly,
Especially not
Easy
above
E.
Nicki.
Oh yeah, Easy E should be in there because he's the godfather of gangster rap. Without Easy E and NWA, you wouldn't have that gangster rap sound. So, there if I don't see Easy E, that's another thing with this list because he's the godfather of gangster rap. So,
Yeah, I
Ice
mean,
Cube,
why in the world is Jay-Z not here if Snoop Dogg is here? I mean, they've even got
they got
who else?
Ice Cube up there.
Huh?
They got Ice Cube up there, which I agree with. But, you know, Easy E has to be somewhere on there. I don't see him in the
Here's
top
LO.
15.
Scarface, 50 Cent. Jeez, good. Bro, they put 50 Cent pretty low down here. I mean,
Yeah.
Lil Wayne, then Drake, then Nicki Minaj. I just like these guys' closeness. That's what I always loved about Young Money, how close. Despite all the nonsense, despite all the controversies, despite the ignorance that is exuded even by them, they guys are just best friends. I wish Snoop Dogg was number 10 so they could all be together.
Who's, wait, does this say M? And what number?
No, M's number five, been number five with these guys. He never really goes up, but he just kind of stays there.
You know, man, this list, who made this list?
I don't know, just the people who watch it. But then again, Eminem, come on. We gotta admit that technically he's about as good as it gets. The only reason that he can't possibly move further is because he doesn't resonate with the culture at all. He's his songs, his struggle is personal. And the reason that he gets and most of the reason that he gets so many sales is because he's the only rapper that white people listen to.
Facts. Yeah. I mean, if he was like, well, I hate to say if he was black, he'll just be another rapper.
But he is still among the best because
Oh
those
yeah.
technical skills, oh my Lord, bruh.
Yeah, you don't break records like that without being one of the best. I mean, he has the highest selling rap album of all time, you know. And he actually has two of the highest selling albums of all time. So I mean, his skills are unmatchable. In his rap battling,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's where it came from.
Yeah, him and Jada Kiss. Jada Kiss is another underrated. If we're talking just pure rapper MC, Jada Kiss should be in that top five.
I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna put any women in the top five at all, it's gotta be Nikki. If you're talking about just skills, then you gotta go Lauren. Because Lauren Hill, she's like Nas, real short career, but very impactful.
I don't know. Jada Kiss is a guy.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I don't know much about them. Where in the world is he?
Oh, Jada Kiss probably not up there because he wasn't like he wasn't like sellable like Nas and all them. He was like a battle rapper type, if that makes sense.
They put E40 on the list too. That's crazy. I didn't
If there,
expect him to be here.
if there's no Easy E, man, that's a crazy list.
They put E40 on the list. I did not expect them to
Dr.
put.
Dre, what? Well, Jada Kiss is
There he
up there.
is. We found him.
There's no Easy E, bro. Are you kidding me? Dr. Dre? Dr. Dre is an amazing producer. Don't get me wrong, but he
I
ain't better rapping than Easy E.
Why is Future so low? Well, Future usually doesn't rap, he usually sings, but still, come on. He's got enough influence to at least be in the 30.
Yeah, this list is trash.
Big Pun is above Future?
Big Pun should be top five. If we talk about pure rapping MC and his album,
Mm-hmm.
Capital
And
Punishment,
he, look at these guys. Remy Ma, Fat Joe, and Cardi B, he's got a good list of proteges.
yeah, I mean that guy is big. Can't nobody beat him in a rap battle. Not even him. Big Pun was just different.
Hmm.
I mean, people need to go look list the Big Pun. He was bigger than Biggie, like bigger, and can rap so fast you wouldn't even know he was a big guy.
I wish that Nicki Minaj was not dying. I feel dying because ever since she had the kid, she does not make music as often or with as many influential people. Then of course they had that little stupid beef thing where Megan didn't even call her out, but the hit dog just hollered and then she got embarrassed for it. I mean, the queen is still doing her thing, but come on, girl. We're
I
waiting
think
for your next album.
I think the issue started when Remy Ma got out of prison. She started dissing her.
I mean, Remy Ma did throw some shots back too. I mean, everybody's been on Nicki's behind.
Yeah, that's why
Remember
I
when
mean.
she remember when she dissed Miley Cyrus at the Grammys and then never got one? Come on, people have always been against her. That's natural.
For sure, yeah, I was trying to say that Remy Ma, when she got out of prison, she was dissing Nicki. I think a lot of people like ran with Remy Ma with that,
Mm.
and that kind of don't get me wrong, Nicki can sell out regardless. Even if she says she can do a tour right now, it'll be sold out regardless. But I think when it's like it's like now in current society, if a person goes after another person, like you see with Kendrick and Drake, two of the top, they'll go against that person more so than anything. And Kendrick, I mean, he's two on the list and Drake is eight. So you can
Hmm.
see why it'll be like that. But yeah, when you go against a rapper, not saying that Nicki can't rap, when you're going against a true MC that has lyrics, a battle rapper, I mean, it's not much you can do with that. Kendrick has the battle rapper energy in him. So it's not much a Drake or Nicki can do with that.
Kendrick had anger. Drake just doesn't get angry at all, especially not now. He's gone so soft you could probably poke him and it'll leave an indentation.
And it wasn't just Kendrick, it was a lot of rappers going at him. Rick Ross, um, you know, a couple of rappers that was going at Drake all at the same time. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And the thing is, even in 2023, Kendrick was still number two and Drake was eight. Or Nicki was number eight and Drake was 10. Like I said, they switch a lot. But I digress. I don't know
Yeah.
why I wanted to talk about rappers. I actually do like talking about music when I can.
Yeah, I was talking about my album and yeah, it was a great time to bring it up because I've been wanting to say that, there's always a pioneer with a new era of rap. With the drill sound, it was Chief Keef, which
Hmm.
I felt it should just ended there with him because that was his style. But he got over pushed by other artists, and it's kind of getting annoying now. It played out because Chief Keef was talking significantly about Chicago, O Block, what he was going through, what his environment looked like. Now everybody's just pushing in turn it around to even more something demonic and something wrong for our people. Where more so with me, I want to make this into a new era where music goes back to that soulful feel, that cultural feel, that essence of it. And I'm sure there'll be other artists after me, they'll start using my sound, which I don't care about. But
That's the goal.
yeah, but I just want it's just time for a new era. And you've been hearing a lot of artists say, well, if you want drill music to go away, make a new sound. But a lot of artists are not brave enough to do that because with that, it's going to be a lot of criticism that comes with that, a lot of rejection from that. It was like that with drill music, as we're talking about it right now. But you have to take the risk, and I'm not afraid to take the risk. And I have a story to tell. So, you know, with this album, I hope that it can be one of the best. When my single Black Roots releases on July 18th, they'll give you a snippet of it. And then in October, I'll be releasing Most Valuable Woman, which is dedicated to my mom, which is, think of it like Dear Mama with Tupac, but it's different. It's my story for my mom, and it's just gonna be something great. We'll have good music videos to go with it. Something different, of course, and I look forward to it, man. It's a blessing. I want to show the album cover so you guys can get an idea of what I'm working with.
Guys, you've got music, you've got books, you've got mentorship, you got
films,
teaching, you got activism.
I got films as well. Can you see that?
It's your background is fighting you, but yeah, well, you got it now.
Maybe I have to zoom in a little bit.
Yep, there we go.
So it's me pierced to the cross. It has caution tape over my mouth. It has the words hypocrite and trust no one as well on it. And the meaning behind that is, I know that with the new style of music that I'm trying to bring, there will be people trying to, crucify me or bring me down and say that, just because you are trying to make something new doesn't mean that we can't love drill music too, which is fine. But, I just feel that the drill music has become too toxic and I want to bring something new to it. So again, people, when you are trying to create change, don't be expect to be loved by everybody. It will never happen that way. So yeah, man. A lot of people think of Michael Jackson and Prince, but when they was wearing those high heels and their own style, people crucified them every which way. So it's part of life. Tupac too. When they think of thug life, they think of it being him saying, he support gangsters and stuff like that. They don't even know the true meaning of thug life.
Mm-mm.
It's the hate you give
You
little
will
infants.
convince.
Yeah. I mean,
Wait, the hate you give little
infants.
infants, that's
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, I forgot the little two words after that. He
Well,
says, the hate you give little infants fucks
the word
everybody.
is exactly. I was trying
Yeah.
not to say that one.
I'm sorry. I try not to say it's your podcast. I didn't want to curse, but
Oh,
that's the
you're
true
fine.
meaning. That's the true meaning of it. And the reason that he wanted people to know that is because when they call us thugs, they try to put this bad image on us. But he was trying to turn the narrative around like, hey, this is just who we are. And no matter how much you try to put this bad image on us, I'm gonna turn this word into something positive.
And we are that way because of these environments that are created by the institution that we did not have control over. That is why I know that I'm not going to be well liked if and when I rise to a position of major prominence, because I'm going to challenge Black people specifically to a higher standard. I look at Black people like white people look at Democrats. You have to be on your best behavior. You have to be ambitious. You have to be rambunctious. You have to be passionate. So whenever I see a Black person who's content with living their life in mediocrity, it makes me sad because that's something that a person who does not have things stacked against them has the luxury to do. When you do come into this world with a target on your back, you don't have you can't remove it, but you can dodge the things that are coming at you, and you have to be intentional with your movements. Otherwise, you might get hurt.
Yeah, it's like game of chess, right? Um, Again, another lesson that I give to my kids, trying to teach them about chess. You start as a pawn. The goal is to become a king. You have so many pieces to move to get to that point. You know, or in our time of life, we've been in a pawn stage. We may be a bishop or knight right now. Depends on where you at in life. You know, with us having the business, we are either those two things, a bishop or a knight. Our goal is to become a king, though. You know, so you have to move your pieces strategically, smartly, and have a plan for everything, so that you can become a king. You know, we're currently building our own empires, right? In order to build a successful empire, you have to have a village around you. Our village is the people that we help. You know, besides youth, you know, I'm in the civil rights fight. I'm in the political fight. I help adults too. You know, so having that support and them learning, um, I have my own terminology, my own philosophy. The world is a drug. I'm not sure if you ever saw it on my pages and stuff, but the world is a drug. May sound crazy to people,
Oh, come on, computer.
huh?
Oh no, I was just complaining about my computer. It keeps trying to mess up on me. Please continue.
Oh, okay, okay. So the world is a drug means that the world produces bad drugs and good drugs. The bad drugs can be what I just mentioned, social media, the negative aspect of it. It could be bad music. It could be bad foods, bad drugs that harms people's minds, that harms their bodies, that just destroys them mentally and physically, right? They give you everything you need to destroy yourself, the guns, everything in your communities, right? And then there's the good drugs in the world, like healthy foods, positive communities, unity amongst people, you know, working together on issues, creating a healthy climate. You know what I'm saying? There's different
Mhm.
things in the world, drug wise, that they can give to you. That's why I say the world is a drug. It's just one big drug. We are addicted to certain things in this world. So that's what I mean by my terminology. The world is a drug. And it deals with civil rights and stuff like that too. I can go into detail about how my philosophy deals with those areas, but whenever you see my shirt of me wearing "the world is a drug," I have my own symbol and stuff like that. Uh, I just want people to understand that I'm not promoting drugs, you know. So yeah,
The world is a drug, and we are the healthcare professionals, and we got to be specialized. That's one thing that I forgot to mention earlier. I'm not expecting everybody to become a king because not everybody is fit to do so. We are not the military. Our goal isn't to make everyone a leader, and we're not going to uplift people into leadership positions who don't deserve it, like the military does, because that's not what people are supposed to be. Some people are going to be knights, some people are going to be pawns, some people are going to be bishops. But those rooks, they are strong, they are active, they are emotionally grounded. They are the ones who should be going in and disrupting the negative spaces because they have the emotional regulation to handle it. The bishops, they're smart. They should be planning. They should be giving us ideas and going in and learning how to implement them. The pawns, they should be on the ground doing the footwork. And of course, the knights, they should be ready to come in and defend when things get hot. Those can be our security officers. The king and the queens, the kings and the queens, they should be the ones funding. They should be the face of the organization. They should be the ones spreading the truth. Everybody has a role to play. We just have to figure out where they can be implemented. And if we can do that and have everybody stick to what they're good at instead of trying to be more than what they should, I believe that will work a lot faster and a lot better in fighting back against the things in this life that are meant to want to destroy us.
definitely I agree. And one thing I want to clarify is, like with the king thing, I think that we all should carry ourselves like we are black kings.
Mm.
And I think people get confused with the Black King thing. Um, I think when you think highly of yourself, you produce the best version of yourself. You know, people could be like, "Oh, it's cocky" and stuff like that. No, if you don't believe in yourself, who's gonna believe in you? What I'm trying to say. So I think everybody should walk around believing that they are or they have king elements, not be a dictator or anything like that, but you have king elements where I am proud of the person that I am. When I look in the mirror, I'm proud of who I am as a person. I'm beautiful, I'm black, I'm smart, you know, and I'm gonna carry myself that way. And everything you just said, I agree with that too. People need to know what their roles are and how to be successful in those roles. Not everybody can be a leader of an organization. Not everybody can be that king in the organization, right? Again, I don't want to sound like a dictator, but you have to play your role effectively in each position. Not everybody can be the leader because being a leader, you have to take accountability when something goes wrong. You have to strategically plan things to uplift those other positions that you just mentioned. People see the roses and sunshines of being a leader or king, but they don't want to take accountability when things go rough. When I used to play basketball in high school, I used to always want to take the last shot. I wasn't afraid of the consequences that came with it. If I missed the shot, I missed the shot. I take accountability for it. It's my fault. But I'm gonna take it again, and I damn sure will make it next time. you know, and I did. Not a lot of my teammates wanted to take a last shot because they didn't want to get blamed for it.
Mm.
But if you don't take risks, you never know what you can achieve. I'm a risk taker. You know, I'm a boat rocker. I rock the boat when people say don't do it. I say things that people say, oh, don't say it. It might harm you, but it needs to be said. I'm not afraid of the risk. And that's why we are different. We're not afraid to speak on issues that others are afraid of speaking on. One thing I had to learn is my friends, I used to try to bring them with me to do the work. But I had to realize not everyone is like me. Maybe that's not their role to be out front. Maybe their role is being behind the scenes and just making one post. That's okay. Some people are not meant to be in politics. That's okay. Maybe their role is something different, you know? So that's how I view it. Like you said, you know.
I understand wholeheartedly, my friend. I have to learn that lesson too. By the time that I was an adult, I didn't think that everyone was much different than me. I said to myself, I don't know what everyone else knows, but I know what I know. So what I know must be common sense because I know what I know, but I don't know what they know, you know?
Right.
So I just assumed that everybody else had the same mindset as me, that they wanted to make the world a better place, that they wanted to move forward in their own life as a person, as an adult, as a leader that until circumstances happened that caused them to not be. But some people just aren't like that. And I had to learn that the hard way. See, my old junior Kate, somehow she knew a lot younger than I did that there is a unique class of people who even have the ambition to go out and do these things, and just over half of them want want the influence for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
So that's why it's important for us to be more cohesive, more aware of our uniqueness and willing to work together to make it happen. Because a lot of people want the influence, they want the limelight, but they don't want to do that work. And they don't want to work with others or share it or spread it. It's the difference between a leader and an influencer. That's my problem. I don't, like I said before, I don't know much about Kara Spencer, but because all I know about her is the fact that she was a critic who kept trying to take Jones's place until she did. The only impression I have of her is as an influencer. I don't know her as a leader, and she's either going to meet my expectation and I'm going to be disappointed, or she'll exceed my expectation and I'll be a little bit less critical. But we'll see.
Most definitely, man. I'm just kind of sitting back and seeing what she gonna do. I never want to say anything before I can know what a person is gonna do. I only know her for her older person position and what she could have done in that position. But hey, people voted for her. Let me sit back to see what she's going to possibly do, and then I'll make my critiques or my comments. Depending on what she does in the first year. You know, that's just me. Just kind of seeing what she does. I don't have high expectations. You know, but hopefully she, like you said, proves me wrong. you know,
Hmm?
that's why I'm not saying much. I'm just kind of sitting back, analyzing everything. And that's the same thing when I'm coming up with a plan. Before I release a plan, I have to strategically plan it out before I mention it. I don't know. Guess I'm just word like that. I'm not. I try not to rush anything that I do. I always want to plan it out from the marketing, from what the meaning of this project is going to be. With the Black Man Summit, I know, a lot of people maybe wonder, well, why is it happening in July or August? Well, I don't like rushing an event first off, and an event takes time to plan.
Hmm.
We want the best possible event ever. Yeah, you can rush something, doesn't mean it's going to be great. But when you plan it effectively and make the best version of it, it'll always mean something more in that situation. And so, like you mentioned, when we have this meeting, we have to leave out of there with a plan. We have to. And by rushing an event, I guarantee you won't leave out of there with a plan. I just don't believe it because you have to try to get people there, and it may not be the right people. So strategically planning it out, having you on board, it'll help a lot. Can't believe we're 3 hours in. Man, I just looked at the time, I'm like, man, we've been talking for 3 hours. Man,
Yeah, I was actually noticing it too because time really does fly. See,
so what?
3 hours is an important mark for me because as YouTubers, the channels that tend to go from 0 subscribers to 10,000 the quickest are the ones that have videos between 1 hour to 3 minutes or to 3 hours consistently. Like if you want to grow really quickly as a YouTuber, you got to put out some long videos.
Man, this is crazy. Where can I watch this episode and the other episodes for your podcast?
It's going to be in my main YouTube page. Sorry, my face is contorting because I have to sneeze, but it's not coming forward enough for me to actually do it.
I hate that as well, man. It's frustrating, man. So your main YouTube page, okay. I look forward to, seeing episodes before this one, seeing this one. This is a hell of a conversation. 3 hours. That's crazy.
It is a
That's,
relatively new thing. There are only a few episodes before, but because most of my channel is just reactions, and I do want to make a meaningful impact, I added this as a way to make it a little bit more inspirational. So it's not just me reacting to silly videos all the time. Especially because people actually do watch my little live streams. There's still a small audience watching us. It's not just about cartoons. These people actually do come on and watch the things that I say with these leaders.
are they commenting?
They've been quiet for a little while, but they were commenting all right. I think right now they're just watching. Hey guys, somebody say something.
Yeah, ask a question. Some.
Before we got Welcome to the Underground and the Death Angel. And then, of course, Mookie comes in. I just watch anything.
Just watch anything. I'm the same way, my brother. Hey, my brother or sister, whoever that is, I'm the same way. I just watch anything.
I feel like we should focus just on leaders for this specific one. For this specific instance, I feel like we should focus just on people who want to keep going and want to keep growing instead of people who've already stagnated or people who are in high positions. Even if they have stagnated, I feel like it's good to have them around. And then we can add the other people, the advertisers, the marketers, the the artists. We can add those guys in a little later after we've established our main team.
And like you said, it starts with those closed meetings, those private meetings. Who do we believe should be the proper leader? Our issue is we talk too out loud on social media about these things, and it creates a whole issue where people know what we are trying to do. We need to have those private meetings and closed meetings like the civil rights time and come up with leaders that we believe will be best for our community and also bring them to those closed meetings where it's no cameras, no bull, BS, and we have discussion and test them to see if they should actually be our leaders. That's where we mess up at. We get people into office. We don't. First of all, we don't present a plan to them. Everybody speaks about what they want, but we don't have a collective plan for us. And you want to know why? Because the individuals that are speaking don't want to organize with other leaders. It's again, it goes back to it. We're talking about leaders. It goes back to everybody wanting to be Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Dude, I get it. You want to be the moral leader of our time, the Moses of our time. But your job may not be the Moses of our time. And the more you seek it, the more you hurt us. Unity. I've said it at the event, unity. The difference between a leader and a wannabe leader is the leader doesn't focus on being the leader of something. He focuses on uplifting everybody, helping everybody. That's what makes a leader. A non-leader focuses on awards and accolades and being all on the news, smiling and speaking like they're actually doing something when they're nowhere to be found when one of us asks for help. Right? So that's the difference between real leaders and fake leaders. The real leaders is like us. We out here doing the hard work, feet to ground. While the other ones are up there having lunch with, you know, rich St. Louis people, having lunch with the St. Louis Cardinals president, having lunch with, the mayor. Like, man, come on, man. You supposed to be the so-called civil rights leader of St. Louis and you not helping our youth. So I don't understand about these leaders, right? And we have to take some of the blame for that, for not organizing effectively. But we are 23 years old.
Mm.
We are fresh in the game. So what's the excuse for those that's older than us?
The richest man in Missouri is a black man. I never knew his name until he became the richest man in Missouri. Where in the world is he? What is he doing with this money? Now don't get me wrong. I understand that a lot of people like financial freedom. You can do whatever you want with your money, but I believe that if we want to move towards collective progress, then we need to be pouring money into our future. If I had that kind of money, if I was a dang billionaire, you know where it'd be going? It'd be going into our schools, it'd be going into our social services, it would be going into our libraries. That's where our money needs to go. Why do we have people hoarding money in the first place? And it irks me, not because billionaires exist, because even though that's terrible, it's worse because it's a black man. Call me a racist if you want. Well, you won't, but somebody will, and it's fine because black people should not be hoarding wealth. We have our own struggles to deal with. How are you going to put yourself in a position that where you have that much inherent power in a society run by money and you help nobody with it? It's one thing if it's just your average white guy, but you are a black man in America and you're turning your back on everybody by sitting there and not letting anybody know.
I believe you talking about David Stewart, Worldwide Technology, right? Because he is a one. He is what you just mentioned. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I believe it is because he is the only black billionaire from Missouri, St. Louis. But he's the creator of Worldwide Technology, David Stewart. Um,
Hmm.
and his son has a black-owned, was it comic book or something? I came in contact with him. Well, not his son back then. His organization. And on their website, they talk about helping black artists or upcoming black artists, and it's not true. It's not true. Like those politicians that we talked about earlier that says that they are helping us, but when you go to them and ask them, what can you do to help, or you know, what can they, and they ask you, what can we do? It's the same way with that organization, his son's organization. You know, and I don't want to speak super badly about them. So I don't want him saying that I'm trying to defame his business.
Mm.
But, you know, that's the energy that I get from it. You got all that money, your daddy's a billionaire. He just funded your whole business easily. And you claim that you're trying to help black artists, but the ones that I'm looking at on there are established artists, not
Mm.
new artists, established artists that don't really need your help, but that's your focus. You mentioned St. Louis and all these great things, and it's frustrating because everybody mentions St. Louis when something bad happens, a tragedy happens, they gain from it like they really care. But they are nowhere on the streets on an average day, or not even on the streets. You don't have to be in the streets since you have stature, right? What are you doing from your office space to help create opportunities for us, for our youth? What are you doing? I don't care how powerful or how much money I get. I want to think of a way to help create more opportunities, job opportunities, you know, educating opportunities for our youth. Those are the two things I want to focus on. I can't tackle everything, but job opportunities, educational opportunities will eat those streaming. Once this streaming service right here reaches that $1 billion aspect, I'm gonna make sure that I have internships year round. I'm gonna make sure that I have a lot of jobs set up for people, especially in St. Louis, to have job opportunities so they don't have to be on the streets and blocks all day. I'm going to hire the ones that a lot of these businesses are afraid to hire, you know. And then education. What I want to do is provide educational classes at this streaming service back here. I plan on having, we plan on having the campus, me and my brother, a campus. And one of the centers there is going to focus on educating new artists on how to make money from their art. You know what I mean? So those are the two things that I can tackle. But again, I need support and help, and then I need collaborations with other businesses like you, yourself, and your business and other black businesses. I don't care how powerful I get. I'm always try to find a way to partner with other black businesses, and your things may be different from mine. It may be different from education and job opportunities, but that's how it should be. That's how we can work together because you may have something that I don't have. That's how unity is built. That's how Black Wall Street was built.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Oh,
people forget that. People forget that, it's again about who has the most power, who, I don't want to say it's on your podcast. I want to keep it respectful, but it's about who has the biggest balls.
Yeah.
And it's in politics too. I'm sure when you get ready to run against that person, they will go to their lowest point to make you look bad instead of keeping it a gentleman's game like politics once was. Don't get me wrong, politics is always going to be dirty.
Hmm.
But when you have to go low just to win a battle, should you really be in that position? I wish that we as voters would think like that. If a guy that told you that he would not reopen a case of a young man that was unjustly killed in his backyard, why would you think that he would be the perfect leader for your community on a national level? Leaders, right? Leaders. We vote in the wrong leaders. And then we cry when it doesn't go our way. The question that you just asked to Wesley Bell, yeah, that's what a lot of people are going to get. That's why he didn't want a town hall, an in-person town hall. He wanted a virtual one because he could censor the questions that he answered. So, I mean, leaders, right? We we have come a point in time where we have to stop looking at what a person has achieved or what a person has done and start looking at the ones that are actually doing the real work, you know. And that's what a lot of voters forget. That's why they don't want to vote young because we just getting started. They look at what the person they age is doing. That may not be the answer. Y'all been doing the same thing over and over with, and you still in the same position that
Hmm.
you always been in. You still asking for something. Maybe switch it up. A lot of people are afraid of switching it up, and they're gonna continue to deal with the same stuff until they take the risk. Risks, right? Remember, well, I just mentioned you gotta take the risk if you want actual change. A lot of people are just stuck in their ways. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Humans are not very smart creatures. We're the smartest creatures, but there's not saying much, unfortunately.
yeah. I mean, Mayor Spencer, Mayor Spencer. You know, she is just another element of Lyda Crewson. The mayor before Mayor Jones. She's another element of that. And people did not like Mayor Crewson. So why would you vote in another element that's just like her? Why? You just repeated the same cycle. You just made a good point earlier. We had Obama, then we had Trump, then we brought in Biden to save us, right? And now you're right back at square one. Square one. You know, it's like we move forward and you move back. It doesn't make sense to me.
It does not make sense. Nothing that we are living through makes sense. Modern society, or even ancient society, they did they did the same thing. We've always done the same thing, taking one step forward, moving two steps back. Any times that we have actually moved forward exponentially, it has been because of a shared goal of undetoured progress. And we have not had one of those times in a long time because the opposition to progress, to growth, to sustainability is, unfortunately, at least in our case, the one that has the most money, the most power, the most resources. And that's the same case all over the world. Every authoritarian regime that you see takes control of the government. They have everything. There is nothing to really stop them with because they have every single tool that is available. So, in order for good to happen, everybody in charge has got to be working towards it. And that can only happen if the people vote them in. Relying on people is a difficult, risky, and often disappointing business, but nothing is impossible. We've proved that many times. Just because those people who are chaotic, who are malevolent, are the ones who usually have the biggest balls, does not mean that it can't flip on a dime. So can't lose hope.
Definitely, you got to keep moving forward. Again, if you want change, change doesn't open overnight, you know. But we have to start moving smartly. You have to start having these meetings, private meetings on who we want to be elected, or who to support. Again, we are electing these people and not asking for something or having a plan. Everybody is saying different things, but what exactly is our plan? How exactly are we going to hold them accountable when we elect them? You know, where is the black plan at? Where is it for St. Louis for us? Where is the black plan? We know what we need. We keep electing individuals into office that don't know what we need. Those are not real leaders. Those are money grabbers. You know, Screen is froze again. I'll just wait till. Oh, there you go. But yeah, I was saying that until we start organizing smartly, we're gonna have a rough time. But we'll continue to have a rough time. And I just look forward to seeing how this mayor thing is gonna turn out for Kara Spencer. I just want to see if they're gonna do her the same way they did Mayor Jones.
Well, that depends on if she can live up to Mayor Jones's reputation. Her predecessor was a pretty hard fighter. She may not be good at advertising, but hey, she did her job well. She wanted to make the most diverse city in America, and she was moving. She was making leaps and bounds towards it, cleaning up the crime. She showed up at events. She made good connections. Again, I have many friends that are pretty close to her, but we're gonna see what she can do. She literally got into office less than 2 months ago, and the first thing that she's dealing with is tornadoes. So we're gonna see how she does her thing.
Yeah, I look forward to it, but like I said, I don't have high expectations. And I'm assuming it will be another mayor soon, right after her first term. It's just how our city is. Since Mayor Slade, he's the last one to have so many re-elections back to office. But you have Lyda Crewson, then you have Mayor Jones, now Kara Spencer. Who's next? Me and you can't run. Well, I can't run anytime soon. You gotta be 30 years old.
That is a horrible, disgusting law. It was probably made just because it's a city. The Missouri state, that's the thing that St. Louis really suffers with. Every big city does, because big cities, they are the epicenters of STEM, education, entertainment, technology, and of course, crime and drugs, but they are also existing within red states that don't provide their cities with a lot of benefits that inherently help people. Like, if they were in Illinois, they would be in a much better situation. You can say that if so with your
Yeah, your screen froze again.
I cannot believe it. My friend, you know what? My point was big cities would be better if they were in states with better policies, because St. Louis just lost their police department to the state, and that's another example of red states fighting back against the only places in their entire state that actually brings money into it. If the big cities would just move somewhere else, that would be great, but that's not really feasible now, is it?
Yeah, it's that's the frustrating part about it. Those blue cities, St. Louis and Kansas City, you just have to be stuck in a state where it's red. So even when we do vote during a presidential election, you already know the state gonna end up red unless St. Louis Young Democrats and Democrats start going to those places and trying to change their mind. But some people are just stuck in their ways. That's the sad reality of Missouri. The once blue state that had a Democratic governor and Jay Nixon has now been a red state for almost 10 years now. It's crazy. It's crazy. It seriously is crazy. You know, that's just the epitome of that time with Obama in office and Trump bringing out the worst. Well, not the worst, but the people out of the dark that been hiding.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep, they were like that.
yeah, they were always like that. And Obama becoming the president pushed them to be like, hell no, we can never, ever, ever have another black person in office. So now they everywhere now. Their true colors are they're now comfortable coming out. Because Trump made them comfortable coming out. They were in hiding under those Klan sheets. But now they're everywhere. Police, doctors, nurses, everywhere. And hey, they so I said strength in numbers, man. I mean, yeah, and then it's sad when or Hispanic or
Brethren,
yeah,
our
or
brethren.
yeah, or so-called Hispanic brothers and sisters are agreeing with them, even though they're trying to get rid of them. It's just, man, it's just a lot to talk about. But again, I want to get off topic as far as the leader aspect. Um, Leaders, man, it's just you never really know a real leader until they get into office. You know, everybody can have a good talking game when they're campaigning, but when you behind those doors and them lobbyists are coming up to you, those investors are coming up to you. I mean, I've seen people switch up. I have. When I did my internships, I've seen a lot of people switch up, put on the show for the cameras, and behind the scenes don't care. Yeah. And I'm not trying to say that Wesley Bell and Karen Spencer is like that because I don't know them personally, but that may be how they are. When the camera is on, they talk a good game, but behind the scenes, they just sit on their behind enjoying the power.
Well, we won't know. They literally just got here this year, so all we can, like you said before, all we can do is sit and wait.
Yeah, that's all you can do. That's why I haven't said much. That's why I haven't really made up my mind on if I should run or not because, hey, all that money that he got, he was able to win, you know, with a conservative group behind him in a
Mm-hmm.
democratic city. I don't think people did their research.
They didn't. They did not at all, because Wesley Bell, yes, he did have some pretty shady investors, and they did a lot of advertising for him. His commercials were everywhere. All Jones had was, yeah, Jones and Corey Bush did a terrible job at advertising. Well, more so Jones, because all she did was go on the radio. I don't know why anybody thinks that at this point in history, a person's record will carry them through an election. That was a pathetic attempt at a campaign. I no hate to Mayor Jones, but come on, girl, for God's sake. No wonder she got blown out. But Cori Bush actually did do some advertising. It just wasn't enough.
Yeah, I mean, with all that BIPOC money behind them, I don't think there'll ever be enough. I'm talking about $1 billion corporation making sure that Wesley Bell's face is everywhere. He's on every commercial. I mean, I kid you not, when I was on YouTube looking at videos, his ad popped up almost every single video. And I mean, it was ads going at Corey Bush. It was like it was just ads talking about what he was going to do. in his campaign, but he was feeding on the energy that people were getting towards Cori Bush. The security stuff, that, her bodyguard, becoming her husband and all that stuff. He's feeding
Mm.
on the bad things that people were saying about her in the commercial, and it's sad. That's what I mean. If you have to devalue another person just to win a campaign, are you really a true leader? I mean, I'd rather debate and go back and forth about the policies or what you are going to do differently from that individual. What policies are you going to produce? What legislation are you going to produce that's going to help our community? And a lot of people, that flew over a lot of people's head because he hasn't really mentioned what he was going to do. He just fed off the energy to win, the bad energy that was already towards her to win. So that's why I say we need to really, really, really come up with a plan for whoever is going to run against him. Hell, if it's me, maybe I should start now. I don't know. I haven't thought about it because I am in a appointed position right now that doesn't end to 2027. So I mean, I don't know. Let's see, when did he get in last year?
It would be a 2026 run, but
Yeah, I don't
you
know.
wouldn't start until 2027 because, you know, January.
See, I don't know if I'll be able to run in that position. You know, I would love to. I would love to start campaigning now. Like I explained to you, start campaigning now against those people.
Oh yeah, you can be in multiple positions. That's one thing that just if anything, I feel like people should be more willing to jump up. I don't really conform to staying in one place for too long. Am I frozen again?
No, no,
No.
you good.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
goodness. I also broke my earbuds.
Oh man.
Yeah, the ones that I've been playing with the whole time, they just broke about 3 minutes ago, so that sucks.
Yeah. Headphones are no game, especially in this economy.
But I don't think it'll be too much of a problem, especially if you can find a replacement. That's what I have been trying to petition my state government to do. Like, because ideally, for me, I would run Jay Hoffman to go against Mike Boss because he's exactly the demographic that they would vote for anyway. He's just a white guy with some money, so it just makes sense. And then I would have Kerry Lewis from Swansea replace him because he's already in favor with the Democratic Party. But that's not how it's working out. So I'll have to find somebody else and just de-seat Hoffman myself. At least that's how it's looking like it's gonna go. Because they don't seem like they're too interested in moving up, and I'm a little bit tired of waiting for them. I don't think that I want to do that anymore. Just gonna take matters into my own hands.
Hey man, if you do it, I'll challenge Wesley Bell. If you do it, that he's in the congressional seat, right?
Hmm.
Hey, if you do it, I'll do it. You know,
We gotta start someday. Just stinks that we're not old enough right now.
you know.
Those extra seats would really help out our house right now.
I mean, I got a slogan already made, for the race. I mean, but I'm with you, man. If you want to, I'll run against him, Wesley Bell, and you run against your congressperson. We go to work now. I mean, we can't wait to 2026 and start going. We have to start now because we are not as known as them, and we have to get our message in the minds of people everywhere. And guess what? We already are helping youth, so keep helping the youth and keep putting into their parents' mind what you are doing. You know, People are noticing us. So yeah, you know what? I'm not, I'll run. I'll run against them. You know, Matter of fact, I'll start getting to work now with my campaign slogans and campaign everything. You know, and I want to connect with you, to work with you as well. It's time. It's time.
Hmm.
So let's do it. Let's do it.
We got 2 years, but right now we got to worry about getting these black men in gear,
Yeah, the
getting
Black
that
Man
summit
Summit.
together.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. So once she gets back to me, maybe I'm probably have to send her a text message because she hasn't responded to my email. But long story short, the Black Man Summit, our idea for a Black Man Summit is to bring all black, not just leaders and church members, pastors and civil rights leaders, all that stuff. We want Gen Z brothers to meet with the elders, the black elders, to have a full conversation about how we are feeling and what we need from them, but to also come up with a plan of action for black men to unite and help out our communities and the youth.
Hmm.
That is the overall plan. But in order to get to that plan, us Gen Z brothers, we have a lot on our chests that we have been feeling, we have not been getting from the older black man. And with this summit, we hope to address all these root issues and again come up with an effective plan to start helping our communities and appointing strong black men. Real black men is actually they actually want to help. Let me rephrase that. Real black men actually want to help into elective positions like me and this young brother right here. So we're going to plan it. Um, if the lady doesn't get back to me here, so it doesn't matter because we still were going to plan it
Hmm.
and we're going to make this happen. So if you are interested in you watching from St. Louis, come on with us. You know, the water's wet. Now, with this podcast come out, this episode, I hope that also be a great start as well. So
I'll try and advertise this one, that message in particular as well, because I can cut these things into different parts. YouTube is probably going to do it for me, because YouTube categorizes based on conversation or what's going on in certain videos. You've probably noticed that feature.
yeah,
It's a very odd thing. It's a
yeah,
very unique one too, like how AI just selects different aspects of a video and then gives them a little title. It'll make things easier for me when I'm cutting this one up, because I do want to push this one a little more.
yeah. This is an amazing event that needs to happen in the St. Louis area. So, you know, yeah, this needs to be done. And hey, maybe it'd be a 3 day summit, maybe a 2 day summit. Cause I also want to throw in, some educational or something to be done, or maybe some performances by some artists. You know, I just think that this summit may not be a 1 day summit, maybe three, because there's different things that we have to explore with this. It's almost like the Constitution, right? It was a lot of days that they spent writing the Constitution. With this plan, I feel that it has to be days to write an effective plan. Because I'm sure it'd be some backlash, like some disagreements and stuff, and I don't want to keep people there all day all day and stuff. So it might be 3 days or a week. I just think that this summit has to be done. And it may be different levels to the summit, a healing circle. I mean a healing day for the summit. And then I don't know, engagement day, just different things like that, and it'll be a great setup, possibly get some, investors or support for the summit. That way you can handle food for 3 days or 1 day or whatever. And yeah, man, this is a strategic plan. We're gonna plan it out. It may not be this year, maybe next year, beginning of next year, maybe the summer of next year.
I think we should go for Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Yes, I think we should go for Labor Day.
All right, I'm glad you chose that because it'll be the 2 year anniversary of my car accident that almost killed me 2 years ago. I'm just blessed to be here. So I think that's perfect. You know, we'll have to start really, really planning now and meeting, So yeah, man, let's set up. Well, I'm talking like we like we still not on the podcast. let me zip it up. Can't talk about too much, you know.
Hmm. But we're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm excited. You know, it's been a long time coming, and I felt that this should have been done already before. But hey, it's the first of many. You know, it'd be a great time to really talk about us really trying to challenge those congressional seats. So let's do it.
Because this is a podcast, I've got to end off with a question.
Do it.
So, since I don't want to take up your entire day, I'll ask you one more major question. Who are you remembering this Memorial Day?
My great grandpa, he was a World War I veteran. God rest his soul. He passed away in 2009. I had to have some conversations as a kid with him. He was in a nursing home. So I'm remembering him because he was the definition of a strong, stern man. Very strong. Lived during the civil rights time. Saw it all. World War I veteran. Saw it all. So I just want to honor him on this day, Anthony Harrell. God rest his beautiful soul. And he was just an amazing man. So happy Memorial Day to everybody out there who has a family member that is now gone, who is a veteran. And to you, Miss McKinney, if you have anyone on this Memorial Day who you are honoring, God bless them. God bless your family. And we remember them on this day.
Mine is my great grandfather as well, Beige McKinney. I'm the last man in our family with his last name. He left us in 2020, right as the pandemic started. I'm glad that he didn't have to suffer through that. He was a man who was known in his community as a multi-talented and overly compassionate man who would do literally anything: lay concrete, cut down trees, build cupboards, build doors, share food, hunt, if it meant that it could help somebody out. That's why I feel so obligated to carry his name with a spirit of benevolence. And though I am overly generous, a lot, and it's caused me a lot of trouble in the past giving too much, but even though that is the case, I am proud to be a man of that spirit, of that giving spirit. Means I haven't lost all my hope yet. So, so yes, I'd like I'd like to pay him respects today. He was also a veteran, but even if he wasn't, see, Memorial Day began as just a Memorial Day. It became a military thing later down the line. So I encourage everyone to remember all of their lost loved ones on Memorial Day. Go ahead and put some flowers on a grave or just bless them in secret, verbally. Either way works. Because we gotta respect those that we came from, because they're a part of us, even now.
Amen. Amen. You know, yeah, man, we do this for the giants that's on our shoulders, our ancestors. So always like that's where history comes in, you know. So I want to thank you for inviting me on this amazing podcast, for having a almost 4 hour discussion. That's the beauty of it. I had to really, really, really talk about, how I was feeling. We got to share some ideas, and the Black Man Summit. That's our next step.
Hmm.
I look
Labor
forward to.
Day weekend. We gotta make this thing happen.
Hey, as soon as we get off this podcast, we gonna start working. You know, so let's do it.
Yes, sir.
All right. So enjoy your Memorial Day. Thank you for having me, and I'll be in contact. We have a lot of work to do. A lot of
That's
work.
for sure.
So let's do it.
Excuse me for being rusty. Like I said, it's been over a year since I've organized, but I know a lot of organizers, so it's gonna be pretty great.
Hey, we're gonna need them all. So let's do it, man. Let's get to work now. Labor Day, we got what? See, it's about to be June.
Just
2
about three
months.
months.
Yeah, about 3 months. So we gotta start working now. Meeting after meeting. Hard work starts now.
Yeah. I think that's a good day for us. Labor Day is exactly the type of holiday that requires a lot of thinking, not so much physical labor, just mental labor, emotional labor.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I just look forward to having this conversation. Because there's a lot of things that I'm sure me and you've been feeling, but others want to feel, and I'll have the chance to really talk about it. But the main goal is to, again, of course, come out with a plan, but also reconnect as a whole. As a black man, because our black women are dominating. They're doing their thing. They're collective with each other. Now it's time for us black men to rise up to the occasion.
Especially now that even though they've been carrying this weight that they weren't supposed to carry alone, they are losing.
Yeah,
We need to be the ones to help them.
yeah. It's time for us to step up and let's take care of business. You know,
We got to be together on this because it's our responsibility to help them fill in their gaps.
exactly. And we have, that's another topic that we'll get to eventually. Right now it's just reconnecting the black man together because we so divided amongst each other. Then once we are able to reconnect in our community, then we can start to try and reconnect with our women. You know, because like you said, it's such a division between us. It's so sad going on social media, seeing arguments in the comment section between the black man and the black woman. It's just horrible.
Especially in the age of incels. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There are a lot of black men who are diving into that rhetoric of just not liking women, and it makes no sense. It's
So
so emotional.
that's that power trip again. They don't like to see a black woman in power or in those positions, but we have to support them. We have to, and we have to support each other because as soon as one of us get in that position, then it's another jealousy thing. So, it's time for us to address this, especially in our community. Because St. Louis, man, I don't know about other places, but here, jealousy is a hell of a drug.
Look at every single murder. 99% of them are personal. What are you gonna get so emotional over besides somebody else's wealth or something they have that you don't, like your girlfriend or a new car? What are people getting so emotional for that they want to take somebody's life?
Man, we'll never understand what a person thinks. Same with racism. I don't believe that racism will ever end because some people are just hateful. You can reduce it, try to reduce it, but racism will never end. It's just some people are just hateful for reasons that they don't even know why. A lot of them were raised on it, but still some hateful people that don't even know why they hate people. You know, so yeah, man, this is an amazing conversation, man. I look forward to sharing this episode with my connections. Hopefully that brings some more people on your podcast to interview. And especially young people. So yeah, man, I appreciate you for letting me speak and say what I need to say. And again, Black Man Summit. Let's do it. You enjoy your Memorial Day. Hope that you eat good. Hope that you get some rest, some time to enjoy yourself. In this fight, we have to cherish the times that we get to at least rest. Because I know tomorrow we're gonna be right back to it. So
That's for sure. I'm actually ready for work tomorrow, though. I'm ready to see my kids again.
yeah, same. And I'm ready to start planning with you. And if she doesn't respond, I mean, hey, we'll get to work.
Hey, there are other places. I know a nice if we're just looking for near St. Louis, I can do. In St. Louis, I'm not as good in, but my close associate is. We just had one of his events over there a couple weeks ago, and we're having another one on June 14th that I will invite you to.
Yeah, I love to. Yeah. So yeah, let's do it, man. I start creating outlines when I later today after I, relax with some family, let's get it.
Yes, sir. We got this.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Malak Al-Mawt. Is it Malik or Malak? Which one are you going with?
Malik Almond.
Malik Almet.
Yeah. It means angel of death, by the way, and not in a negative sense. With my storytelling and abilities, I'm hoping to use my storytelling to heal uh or connect with others. I think a lot of people get a negative sense of the angel of death, thinking that he's the Grim Reaper and stuff, but that's not what God created him to be. God created him to be the God for souls to the soulful world, you know. So that's his job. He's not like the Grim Reaper and all that stuff. That's Lucifer. So yeah, so through my storytelling, I hope to God or connect with the souls of people and help heal them and stuff. So yeah. If you look at my symbol for that particularly, it has the angel of death in the form of me. Before we get off here, I had to show you this because this is cool. And then it has a pen instead of like his little weapon that he has or whatever that is.
That was the first thing that Blue Heracross said when he jumped in. This means Angel of Death. That was right at the beginning too.
Now I can oh, snap. Here we go. Here it goes. Okay.
There we go.
That's me with a pen over a person in a bed, basically healing them with the pen. So that's what I mean by that, you know. Then I have a symbol that I'm gonna put on the chain that I'm not gonna show because nobody's stealing it. But you know, so yeah, that's it.
I see. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm just I don't know. I just have the abilities to just come up with stories and ideas, artistic things, and just put it into perspective. Like I had an idea for a water bottle that I wanted to show, but I don't know who
Yeah.
stole it. So
Your
yeah,
mind moves at a million miles an hour.
yeah, sadly, sadly.
I mean, my mind works the same way, but my body's a lot slower.
See, like for the album, I don't know if you can see this. Here we go.
Ah, rest in peace, Drill. Then there's,
Yeah,
is that a crow or an angel of death up there? Oh, is that a raven?
yeah, it's a
Crow.
raven that says Ethos era. You probably can't see it because it's not showing, but
I can see Ethos era. The raven keeps flashing in and out.
see.
Dang those green screens.
Boom, there it goes.
There you go. Yeah, if you put it in front of your face, then it works. That's just
Yeah,
us.
yeah. So yeah, I just get ideas like that. I mean, yeah. So, but yeah, man, I'm gonna let you get going. I'm starving. I look forward to having this. When will it be up?
Oh, it's gonna be uploaded as soon as I finish. Because it's a live video, it just reprocesses and turns into a video, and
Yeah.
then the video itself is downloaded to my computer anyway.
Oh damn. Yeah, send me your main channel so I can check it out.
Gotcha.
All right, to his followers, thank you for having me. Do you have a specific name for them?
You can call them the Delta Force.
All right, Delta Force, thank you for having me. And you guys keep showing support to my brother. Okay. And subscribe to this channel if you haven't.
Yes, sir. Hey, you guys heard him. We better go ahead and subscribe.
So hit that subscribe button and I don't know if when he does post a video, let's get this mug up in likes. All right.
Now we gotta do my outro. You guys are loved. You're appreciated. You're gonna do amazing things. drink your water, eat your vegetables, hug your mother, and have an amazing Memorial Day. Malik, Malik Amat, thank you so much for coming here. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate you, and I look forward to every single thing that we are going to do in the future.
Thank you for having me. And we got great things coming, y'all. Delta Force. See you.
Okay. Delta's out. Peace.